Oh, well, hello, my baby gorillas. And here we are already with the man, the one and only Thomas Laird from the Scottish Libertarian Party. I kept calling the Scottish Family Party, the Scottish Family Planning Party, and I kept making that mistake. That was my slip-ups.
It's not a million miles away.
It's not that far off, no. Let me just get rid of this. Great. So, Tam, welcome to the Guerilla TV. This is the first time, we obviously know each other, but this is the first time we've actually had a chat about politics on camera, which is great as well. So, maybe it would be a good idea, because sometimes the smaller parties don't really have an opportunity to speak to the press and don't get any press. Maybe it would be a good idea if you just give us a wee bit of background about the party, what you guys stand for, and what it is that you represent in politics.
Well, sure. I mean, the easiest way to find out the lowdown in the party is obviously to go to www.scottishlibertarians.com, and you can find out everything you would wish to know, and possibly even more than you wanted to, on our website. However, for those that don't know anything about us, we are a Scottish party. We were one time loosely connected to the Libertarian Party UK. We came in agreement with them about 8 years ago, something like that, that we would go it alone. That seemed to be the way the wind was blowing, and it would be better if we just done our own thing up here. So after a bit of toing and throwing through a guy called John Watson at the time, we managed to make a deal with them. We don't run candidates in the rest of the UK, we run candidates in Scotland, and they don't run candidates up here. That's a gentleman's agreement that we have. And we have cordial relationships with them. But basically, the Scottish Libertarian Party are a party of principle, and the first principle is the non-aggression principle. You do not use violence to further your political aims. You do not use violence against peaceful people to collect revenue and to, basically further your agenda. It's not acceptable. So that and from that principle, we extrapolate everything else. We believe in the right to life, the right to liberty, providing you, of course, don't interfere with somebody else's rights to do the same thing. So, for example, if you're a criminal and you use violence against people, then you forfeit your right to liberty because you've got to be locked up for the sake of everybody else. We believe in the right to free speech as an absolute. So that's one of the things that we may have in common with some of the other parties that you mentioned to me before we start, is a belief in free speech, but ours is absolute. You can say what you like, you cannot do what you like, And short of, we have laws currently that prevent you from saying, let's all go and burn down David Ballantyne's house or whatever.
Not the first time somebody said that.
Yeah, well, maybe even more after this. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, that's the essence of the party, and we've been going on the go for about 8 years. It started, as you well know, with maybe 3 people and a dog in a pub. The dog was expelled or left, can't remember, and it's grown from there. So we now have around 300 members, and we put quite a few candidates up in the last Scottish elections. We've been putting up candidates regularly in Scottish elections of all types. But this is the first time we really put up a major amount of candidates. I think there was 11, refresh my memory here, Sunday. I think it was 8 candidates in total that were constituency candidates, and then the rest were regional candidates. But for the first time ever in Scotland, wherever you were in Scotland, you were able to vote for a Scottish Libertarian Party candidate. Well,
I'll just segue on from that then, because we'll just go straight from that and we'll go to the screen sharing, and we'll actually just get up there. Let me just get rid of that.
8 candidates in total that were. Listen, I was glad that you introduced us as, what was it, Scotland's what? 13th biggest party?
Yeah, but I was talking about, and I think I should clarify how, because I've not actually clarified it, and I think I think you should clarify what I was meaning by that. I mean, this is where from Wikipedia, I'm not talking about the number of members you've got, or
Wikipedia.
So Wikipedia, I got all my information from, which I think is the most safest source. But no, I think this is actually quite a good source, and I'm just using one part of it as well, Tam. So I'm going off this. I'm not talking about, and I'm going to come to where you've actually succeeded in a second, which I think is great. So this is where I've actually taken it from, just purely this. Right. So it's not about if you've got more members than X, or they've got more members than you, or your thing. This is where I've got.
Should you not be doing a kind of Fallon Fluff Freeman type countdown thing here with the music in the background?
Going to the one, number one.
And in at number 2. Yeah.
Yes,
still at number 1, Scottish National Party with same old shite, different day. Yeah, okay.
What's the chances of Nicola Sturgeon doing a 3-hour interview on the Guerilla TV channel?
I would think they were slim and non-existent, but you're a persuasive man, David. So,
well, I mean, I'm very happy. I mean, I've done so. I don't know if Alex Salmond will come on and do the interview as well, but we'll be very interested. All of them are welcome. All the parties on here and others will be welcome on the Guerilla TV channel to put their points across. So we're not, as you know, that I am as well as a free speech advocate, and I believe that all points should be discussed as well. Yeah. So, so let's go down to what you're alluding to. So it depends, obviously, on your criteria as well, Tam. Yeah. And this is the point. So here's one thing that we've already got you in 7th place for, and that is the number of constituency votes. So only the family planning, I've said that again, family party, I said that earlier on, family party has actually got, and they're actually the 6th largest party by constituency votes, and the Scottish Libertarian Party are now the 7th largest party. I mean, and I'm excluding obviously the independents who are independent, so they would be classed as individuals rather than as part of a collective. But I mean, Restore Scotland has done rather well. So did the Freedom Alliance. They'll come on to chat to you later about Freedom Alliance. But by constituency votes, you're now the 7th largest party in Scotland.
Yeah, that's a good achievement, I think, for us in an 8-year period.
Well, let me tell you about your achievements, because obviously I know the first person to stand, after you rightly pointed out, it took a few years. They had the party logo, they had the website, they had made it a political party. The Scottish Libertarian Party had made it a political party. The first votes were 12 or 16, I can't remember the exact number, but you've taken that from 12 or 16, and now you've got 7,000 votes. You must be pleased about that, Tam, from 16 to now 7,000, and it seems like the Scottish Libertarian message is increasing amongst the populace.
Well, it's the message is getting out there. Whether or not people are buying it, wholesale is another different matter. It's not as well as I would have liked to have done, but I think all things considered, it was a reasonable result for us. I mean, every penny we have as a party comes from donations from our members. We don't receive any backing from, rich individuals or corporations. Every penny we gather in is from donations from members of our own party and from well-wishers. And it's all small donations that pile up. And I myself put quite a bit of my own money into the party. We have, my deputy leader, Steph Johnson, has gifted money to the party. So it's pretty much, we've done it ourselves, Mm-hmm. So that considered that we have very few activists and, not a lot of members, 300 members in Scotland. I think we made a good showing. It was not an embarrassment by any stretch of the imagination.
But you seem to be growing. I remember the Scottish Libertarians Party standing with MPs, and I'm just trying to work out. I was trying to work out in my head whether this was the most votes you've ever had, or when it was back. Because Kaz Paul, you're like 600 votes in his constituency, but I think this is the most votes you've ever had as a political entity.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, it's the most candidates we've ever put up. Well, actually, that's not true. We put up a lot of candidates in the Scottish Council elections, in the last Scottish Council elections. I think there was somewhere in the region of 30-odd candidates in Kilmarnock alone. But that was, that's council elections, and it costs nothing to put up a candidate at a council election, whereas obviously it costs quite a bit to put up candidates for the Scottish elections. So in terms of profile, it certainly raised the profile a good bit, and whether it was a good return on the money spent is another matter. I'll leave that up to the members to decide. But lessons learned. We're kind of, like I say, we have very few career politicians, which I'm glad about, in the party. So we don't really have, we're kind of navigating this semi-blind. So we're doing it from scratch. I've got a wee bit of political background. Some of the people in the party have got a wee bit of political background. But we're doing it with amateurs. And I mean that in the in the best possible sense of the word.
Semi-pros.
So, what's that?
Semi-pros.
That's semi-professional. yeah.
So, and another milestone that you've managed to achieve is that you've also got your first councillor, which again I think is incredible. I mean, you really are going from strength to strength just now.
Well, that was, that's Sandy Wallace up in Aberdeen. Sandy crossed the floor for the Scottish Conservatives. He's by no means, Sandy will tell you himself, he's a small L libertarian, he's more conservatarian really. Mm-hmm. And his defection to us, he basically left the Conservative Party and he was going to remain as an independent. And then Martin, the guy that we've got up there in Aberdeen, who was kind of a regional organiser at the time, he'd spent a lot of time talking to Sandy and convinced him it would be a good idea to join, and he did, and I'm glad he did. So at least we've got a standing councillor out of it. How long that? I'd have been happier if Sandy had stood for election in that last Scottish election. But he had commitments, and we understand that everybody's got lives in this party. As I say, we're not professional politicians. So, but we're glad to have him on board, and hopefully he'll remain, and we'll get some more.
So the Scottish, is it correct to say the Scottish Libertarian Party believes in Scottish independence? Is that am I placing
That's
the party?
That's the party's position.
Uh-huh.
Now we do have unionist members of the party, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own point of view. Everybody's entitled to their own conscience, and at the end of the day, whether or not Scotland becomes an independent country at any time in the future will be a matter of plebiscite. Mm-hmm. So it's down to everybody's individual choice what they're going to vote, and everybody's entitled to campaign the way they see fit. However, the current party position is we believe in independence, and I think, and let me qualify that, because to say I believe in Scottish independence is a bit like saying I believe in Scottish justice or Scottish, Scottish prosperity. But what is that? I believe in independence, right? There's no such thing really as Scottish independence. There's just this thing, independence, and it's a basic libertarian value, self-determination. So it doesn't stop at Scotland. I would like independence for Holyrood as well. I would like to see more powers devolved right down to the smallest local unit possible. Subsidiarity right down to the individual. And if you, Davy Valentine, wish to declare yourself the independent Republic of Davy Valentine, I would be all for that.
I've already done that, but I'm actually changing my name to Daphne Ballantyne, and I'm actually now part of the trans super straight lesbian. And as you can see, I've feminized myself to be part of the intersectional hierarchy.
There's no need to do that. You just declare yourself.
I have on the Guerilla TV channel. All my baby gorillas know that I'm actually a trans lesbian, super straight lesbian woman now. And
fantastic.
And I'm looking forward to, as well as declaring myself completely autonomous. I want to bring you on to the serious point of actual politics here. So in the Scottish election, Nicola Sturgeon was on the radio saying, we need to get independence, we need to vote on the second regional vote for the Scottish National Party, but because they have done so well, 1.2 million votes, nearly 1.3 million votes, nearly 47.7% of those that voted, 62 seats. If that 40%, that million votes on the second vote had gone to the Alba Party and the Scottish Libertarian Party, I think there's a couple others parties, smaller parties, who believe in Scottish independence, but we'll stick to the two highest, the ones that I know here so far that believe in Scottish independence.
We can rule the Scottish National Party out then, can't we?
Yes, exactly. I'll come back to that in a minute. But the Libertarian Party and the Alba Party, that would mean that the Conservative and the Labour Party would have gone down. So if it was, let's say there was 500,000 for each, that means that both the Unionists in the Labour Party and the Unionists in the Conservative Party would have gone down significantly, and you would also increase the greater nationalist cause by significantly increasing the representation from the Alba Party and from the Scottish Libertarian Party. Do you think Nicola Sturgeon is a bit selfish and not really thinking about the greater cause? Is she only thinking about the SNP?
I don't know that she's selfish.
No, politically, I'm not talking about personally, I'm talking about politically selfish.
Yeah, politically. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what the plan is with the SNP. Okay, first and foremost, and I'll keep saying this until I'm blue in the face, the Scottish National Party are neither nationalist and Nicola Sturgeon has made that absolutely plain. They are not nationalists. Okay? The only people who call them nationalists are unionists, who are ironically more nationalist than the Scottish nationalists. And neither do they believe in independence. Here is the problem. See, when I talk about independence and other people talk about independence, maybe you talk about independence, we are not talking about the same thing as the SNP. The SNP wish to facilitate a power transfer from Westminster to Brussels. That's their plan. They are internationalists.
Globalists.
They are socialists.
The internationalists are globalists. And when I mean, I would see myself as
globalist.
Because they believe the moves towards that. So I think we should clarify, because people might not know the difference. So I'm internationalist. I believe in free trade, probably similar to you, with other countries, and I believe in cooperating and helping other countries wherever possible. I would say that was internationalist. Globalist is the moves towards a one world government, a one world state, open door immigration, which I'll come back to later on with you now. Open door immigration, where a technocracy, whether it be from the unelected commissioners in the UN or the unelected globalist body of the United Nations, are dictating our legislation. Now, I don't know if you saw the SNP's manifesto, where they are directly going to import United Nations mandates directly into Scots law. Now, I don't know anybody who voted for the UN, and obviously Nicola Sturgeon has been away to the Council of Foreign Relations in America, which is a globalist body, and I don't know, she seems to be taking on board critical race theory, which I don't understand in a country that's predominantly 96% white, and our ethnic minorities in Scotland going great. They're actually integrated and see themselves as Scottish, so they would then other them, and they would try this critical race theory is trying to other them. So we're taking on board Black Lives Matter, not really relevant. Our Afro Scots are going very well in Scotland to a greater extent as well. So we're actually importing this that doesn't fit into our country as it is just now, and she also is on the record for one basically de facto open door immigration as well. Nicola Sturgeon seems to be following the globalist agenda, not an internationalist.
Well, they are globalist, and I mean, I don't know if I would call myself internationalist in as much as trade is something that goes on that should go on between individuals and individual private companies. And if the individuals and private companies wish to trade with people from overseas, that's their business, and they should be entitled to do so. Trade deals are something that should not be done between governments, right? So I don't see it as an internationalist kind of thing that way. But I get your point. Definitely the SNP are globalist. You know, they're pro-European Union, they're pro-United Nations. They keep banging on about this, you know, we want our seat at the United Nations. As far as I'm concerned, you can stuff the seat at the United Nations right up your jackson. I have no interest in a seat at the United Nations now or ever. So we are not on the same side as the SNP. The SNP do not believe in independence, and they have not believed in independence since at least 1988, when they took the decision to go for this independence in Europe, they called it, which is, as you know,
shilling for the globalists,
is a complete oxymoron, right? You do not get, there is no such thing as an independent sovereign nation state in the European Union. You cede your sovereignty when you go into the European Union. Now, immediately, the EU-Unionists will counter, oh, Germany and you try to say Germany and Spain aren't independent countries. Well, I'm not trying to say it. It's a fact. They aren't independent countries. Oh, they are independent because they can leave voluntarily anytime they like. Well, that being the case, I've got a question for the SNP. If you are an independent country within the EU because it's voluntary and you can leave at any time, then surely that must mean that Scotland is de facto already an independent country because we can voluntarily leave the United Kingdom at any time we choose if we get the vote, right? So it makes no sense. You know, the idea that being one voice in 27 is somehow going to be an improvement on one voice in 4 is completely nonsensical. And my question to SNP supporters and to Nicola Sturgeon is, give me one good reason why I need the EU. You know, what is it? What is the problem that the EU needs to solve that we need to join it? And I have yet to get an answer on that.
Yeah, but I mean, to me,
it's all right saying people go, oh well, the same people who say they want to be a member of the EU are then the ones that turn around and go, it's okay because Spain will probably not let us join anyway. Well, that's not the point. The fact of the matter is the SNP have an agenda, and that agenda is anti-Scottish, anti-nationalist, and pro-globalist.
Yeah, and I would say that's, and what Nicola Sturgeon said, I'm sure you've seen it as well, when she was at some meeting, she said, if I could, in fact, she was talking to the Turkish journalist lady, and she said, if I could, and Hamza Yusuf said exactly the same, if I could change the name of the Scottish National Party, but she didn't.
That's on record.
But she's not something that we're being hyperbole about. It's she's out of her own mouth. So, but the thing that is not said is, what would she change it to? So what would be the accurate reflection of her political...
The Scottish Republican Socialist Party.
Well, I would have said it would be the Scottish. Well, I said to Sarwar, is he part of a globalist Islamo-Marxist party, which was short for GIMP? And there's a few journalists who are simps for the GIMPs in the Scottish media. But I would have said that Nicola Sturgeon was a globalist, postmodernist Marxist party, and I would have said that was, and the people don't understand, and I'm sure you probably understand, but I'll just explain. Postmodernists was started up in Germany prior to the rise of National Socialism. In the Frankfurt School. Yeah. This was the start when obviously the rise of the National Socialists, the Frankfurt School got kicked out, and I think went to Columbia University in the United States, and I think this is where this is permeated also from the French school in the 60s. Yeah. These ideas are permeated.
I noticed they didn't go to the Soviet Union.
Yes.
all these big Marxists, you know, they decided to get kicked to each other. They ran for their lives because the Nazis were coming. No. And they decided, where can we go? Should we go to Marxist-friendly Soviet Union? It's just, it's not even, it's on the same landmass. No, we'll go thousands of miles away to the great evil capitalists. Sat there sunning themselves in California and said, look at all this evil capitalism. We have to destroy it from within. Utter scum.
But I mean, they're doing that just now. They're doing that just now.
Marcuse and all these tosspots, they really were, the worst kind of Marxist scum.
Well, what happened was, obviously they'd found out that under Marxism, I'll tell you a story, sorry, before I go into that. A girl said to me, I was in a film, and a girl walked up and unironically, a Scottish girl, said unironically, I'm a communist.
Is it on X-Tube, David?
Not yet. Everybody's cracking jokes about me being in porn just now. Not that I know of. Maybe they've got something illegal, but I'm sure it'll come anyway one day. The fact is that this girl unironically came up to me and said, I'm a communist. And I said, but there's been 100 million people that have died under communism. Are you sure that that's correct? She said,
real communism?
She said something different, which it was only under Stalin. And I was like that, oh my God. And people who understand, it's certainly not just been under Stalin, it's been in literally every place. And even in America under Antifa and Black Lives Matter, 30 people have died, and that was pretty much covered up by the media as well. In every place that this has been tried, there's been mass killings as well. And what had happened was the Frankfurt School knew about all these deaths and all these killings. And they then changed it into this cultural Marxism, this postmodernist Marxism, which was to pit, instead of having the class struggle, was to pit women and other ethnic minorities against the ruling class to destroy capitalism. And that's what they're doing, obviously, in America.
Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov told us this in the 70s. This was the plan, to demoralize the Western democracies, and it's succeeded quite well. The Russians seem to have embraced. They seem to have swapped. The Russians seem to have embraced Western capitalism and dumped their toxic ideology on us, and are sitting laughing up their sleeves.
I find that I would say that what's his face is Putin's pretty much a technocrat, but I don't think he's a communist, as I would recognise him as a communist. He's more like an authoritarian leader. I don't know how open he is to capitalism now within Russia.
It probably more resembles fascism.
Yeah, a bit like China. Communism. Like China, because China's now rejected.
It's pretty much, China is probably the most successful fascist state ever, as far as I can understand it. Their whole aesthetic, their whole way of doing things. it's a controlled capitalist economy with an authoritarian government.
That's right.
Which is fascism.
And they also have rejected Marxism as an economic idea as well. I mean, they actually tried to make Marxism and communism work, and it failed again.
Well, the Chinese are nothing if not pragmatic people.
Yeah,
you know?
intelligent.
It was clearly not working.
Yeah.
You know, the evidence was there. You know, their people were starving and impoverished, and they have lifted. Yes, there's still a lot of people. I'm not justifying the regime in China, but for a fact. But since they abandoned Marxist economic principle, they have lifted and raised the living standards of the largest amount of their people ever in history. And India did the same thing. As soon as it ditched the commie ideas, it started to prosper.
Massive growth rates, massive 8% and 7%, I think, for China and India as well. So it wasn't just a little growth. I mean, and I think they're continuing to grow even under the pandemic as well. What was going to say? So tell us a wee bit about your policies. What's one thing that people should know who maybe in the Scottish National Party is that you believe in independence outside Europe, outside the EU. So there must be a big
There is no other kind of independence.
Yeah.
Don't let the SNP fool you. You know, and if you've got viewers in America, you know, SNP gets a lot of support. There's a lot of Scottish people in America and Canada. You know, North Carolina is just full of Scottish people. You know, pipe bands are popular there, and you know, people have got this misty-eyed kind of Brigadoon idea of the SNP that they're fighting for Scottish freedom. You know, spread the word. The SNP, the Scottish National Party, are the worst kind of Marxist scum, and they are not for Scottish freedom. They want to turn this country into a new feudal sort of country under the globalists, and that has to be challenged. And a lot of people who don't know that in America need to get the word out to people who support the SNP in America that this party is not pro-independence in any way, shape or form. They are anti-independence. In fact, you know, even when I was in the SNP, and I'm going back a long time ago, I'm going back to the early 90s when I left the SNP, about 1991 maybe, they were already calling people, you know, if you were a believer in Scottish independence, they kind of sneered at you, looked down their nose at you, and they called you a little Scotlander. Is what they called you if you believed in Scottish independence. It's all about the hatred of the Conservatives, the hatred of Westminster, and you know, there's a few valid points about Westminster, but to trade Westminster for Brussels is insanity. You know, it's like leaving. You know, it's like a battered wife leaving one husband and moving in with another one just because he's got a bigger car or a nicer house. You know, it's like what's the point in that? But I fully and truly believe that the leadership of the SNP have been bought over. They're bought and sold for Brussels gold. They have been promised lucrative positions at the European Parliament when their worthless careers are over in Scotland. You know, they'll be elevated to the dizzy heights of European Union commissioners. You know, people like Angus Robertson, people like Nicola Sturgeon. You know, when eventually she does go, they will be looked after. Their bread is buttered for them by the EU. That's the price they've taken to sell out their own country and their own people.
Well, I would suspect that there's a large constituent in the SNP that would be more empathetic to you as a political entity than they would do at the current situation for the Scottish National Party. I would say it would be from these main points, and also the freedom and entrepreneurship, would actually have a significant proportion of, I mean, hundreds of thousands of votes potentially for you, Tom.
Well, I was convinced that there was a constituency there. there was certainly a split that I've been aware of in the SNP for a long time, and that split became manifest recently with the forming of Alba under Alex Salmond. However, Alba are merely Alex's mates versus Nicola's mates. I can see no major policy differences between Alba and the SNP. And it seems to me also they are basically, ironically, from a party that was formed indirectly through allegations that since disproven, right, that Alex Salmond was a sex pest, is now the bastion and the vanguard of radical feminist thought and values. So, you know, it's not so much a party with feminists; it's feminists with a party. Oh. You know, they've basically the radical feminists have taken over Alba because of the split in the SNP over. I mean, of all the things the SNP could have split over, this trans issue.
Can I just explain this for the viewers? Because Nicola Sturgeon is an intersectional feminist, which I think I'm now, obviously now my name's Daphne Ballantyne, I'm allowed into women's safe spaces, except I'm now going to be fought against by so there's been allegations, obviously I'm sure you know, that Nicola Sturgeon is a secret lesbian. Yeah, I think that's out on the thing.
And rumours.
Well, and they've been about longer than when I even mentioned them, but there's been allegations that in a sham marriage, and not that MD cares, and obviously Joanna Cherry represents the.
Well, obviously she cares because she's tried to cover it up. If that's the case.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, nobody was born about Ruth Davison. Nobody's born about Kezia Dugdale. Nobody cares. So, but obviously you're quite right. But I think it comes to more the sort of deceptive nature, the corrupt, deceptive nature of Nicola Sturgeon. But I'll go back to it anyway. So she's an intersectional Marxist feminist, where she wants me to be in safe spaces with other women like myself, and we've got Joanna Cherry by name, Cherry by nature, who is what you would call a trans exclusionary lesbian, who, because I have a penis and not got my vagina yet.
Is Joanna Cherry a lesbian? I don't know.
She was kissing her girl. I think she thought that was upsetting me. I was like, you charge on. Lesbians don't upset other lesbians. It's just, it doesn't happen that way.
I have no idea. I don't know about the women's sexuality.
No, she was kissing. She's like me, a lesbian, a super straight lesbian, and she was kissing the other woman. But it's not her lesbianism that's an issue. But what she is a trans exclusionary radical. Yeah. So she wouldn't like me because I'm a lesbian now, and the fact is I've still got a penis. So she would be excluding me based on my penis, basically, my female penis, and she wouldn't be.
Keep it?
I took it away, Tom, and so she wouldn't let me. She wouldn't let me in a safe space. So Nicola Sturgeon would be trying to shove me in the female safe spaces and say we'd still be in the same safe space, which is a bit surprising if she is a lesbian. Why she wants me in a safe space? And Joanna Cherry would be trying to shut the door, and I'd be getting shoved about in the middle of this tug of war, of whether I can get into female safe spaces as a woman now.
Yeah. So, well, that's what caused the split. Well,
it's one of the reasons. It's one of the
reasons. A lot of these TERFs, as they call them, decanted wholesale to Alba.
Which is quite funny considering Alex Salmond was up in, which I think a lot of it was having been in the courtroom and actually listened to the court evidence. I think a lot of them were dubious, to say the least, Tam, to be honest with you.
Okay. But regardless, it's just somewhat ironic. And as I say, I was convinced that there was a constituency there. But, you know, I'm not so sure that there is, but maybe it's not as big as I thought, because a lot of these guys have decanted to Alba. As I say, it's just Alex mates versus Sturgeon's mates. I thought there was more old school nationalists there who would maybe have more of a sympathetic or a simpatico with what we are trying to do. But, you know, we've got a lot of different values in the Scottish Libertarian Party in terms of free speech, free economy, free markets. And even those guys, for example, somebody like Jim Sellers. Now, Jim Sellers would be on song with us in terms of free speech. He'd also be on song in terms of keeping out of the EU and Scotland being an independent country outside the EU. However, Jim Sellers is an old school socialist, and he would have no truck with a lot of our free market kind of policies. Mm-hmm. So that's a stumbling block for a lot of these guys, you know. But it is how it is, you know.
But I mean, also the other thing that you've got in other smaller parties, which we're going to actually do an all question time. I seem to be getting an echo, not from you, but just consistently on the Zoom when I'm doing these podcasts. So I'll try and mitigate that. But what we're going to do is an all question time and get all the smaller parties to be able to do question time, because obviously where I was going with this is that the smaller parties are barred from actually, or not barred, but they're certainly not given.
They just don't get invited.
They just don't get invited. If they're not invited to hustings, they're not invited to other things, they get overlooked and they don't get invited. And then it becomes a monopoly of the actual larger parties. So what I'm going to do is an all question time, so that all the small parties have got and I'll get four and just do the same sort of format and give them the opportunity to speak once a week for 45 minutes and just follow the format of the original question time, so that you get an opportunity to actually put your messages across. But yeah. I think that all the small parties going to struggle because they don't have media allowance to actually spread the message, and the media is an oligopoly that protects the five large parties, so it's protecting the globalist parties. And what you would say, having a free market, it's not a free market, it's a protected market where the media cover the backs of the politicians and don't hold them to account, because we can, unlike the Guerilla TV channel who's pushed their way in, you don't actually get the opportunity to be disparate. And we've seen such a grave or a large pushback against GB News, because obviously that's somebody pricking the bubble there.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've seen these international corporations all sort of pulling their advertising out of GB News. You know, at the end of the day, the state licenses media. You know, it decides whether or not you're a fit and worthy person to run a newspaper. It decides whether you're, it's going to give you a charter to run a radio station. And you have to fulfill their criteria and their remit before they'll give you a license to do that. Now, that was bypassed, thankfully, by stuff like the internet and the early days of YouTube, and you know, that bypassed all that kind of crap. But now, as you know, the government is now introducing a bill to try and curb the internet, to curb what you can do and what you can say. And it's ostensibly about, think of the children, it's ostensibly about protecting children from porn, which they quite liberally teach them in school at the age of 5 and 6 years old. They teach them about anal sex in primary school. But
I wish I'd been told about anal sex when I was
porn on the internet. But it's guff. You know, they're really after, what they want to do is control the internet, because as you know yourself, Trump was a perfect example of somebody who used the alternative media to his advantage. You know, the mainstream media were almost unanimously against him. This is not an endorsement of Trump, it's just a fact. He used alternative media to his advantage and did it well.
Well, I to tell you a wee bit, I don't know if I've talked to you with regards to this, but I've had both my Facebooks taken down. I've had all my LinkedIn profiles taken down. Now, I wasn't doing anything political through my LinkedIn profiles. I had thousands of people contacting me and ongoing messaging through that. And I've had the Guerilla TV's had its Twitter page taken down. So we're now getting interfered with.
What reason reason did they give? Did they give you any reason why your Guerilla TV thing was taken down?
No, they just said they suspended. They didn't give me any reason for it, but they just said they suspended me once. But I think it's coming from Nick Clegg, who is now in cooperation, is working with Facebook, and I would suspect they seem to be working again, like the media as an oligopoly, and they're controlling the narrative, and if you don't fit into their narrative, you're going to get muted, and this is the thing that we're eventually developing things just now. We've already got a basic website up for the Guerilla TV channel, but we'll get our Guerilla TV channel up and running, and we'll do it ourselves, and they won't be able to stop us in the future. Well, they could stop us. There's two.
You can do it by force.
Yeah, they could do it by force, or they can do it. There's two other ways they could potentially do it through the other ways, but yeah, they can do it by force. But this is the difficulty we've got just now, and I think that is probably what the Scottish Libertarian Party will be good for in standing against the autocracy and the authoritarianism of the Lib Lab Con Party, the SNP, and I've not really got into the Greens yet, but I'll be very interested to speak to Greens and find out where they are in the political spectrum.
I think we know where the Greens are.
Yeah, I think we do know, but I don't want to prejudge. I try and come with, when I'm talking to people, with an open mind to allow them to express themselves, and I don't want to start prejudging people where they are as well. I was walking down Buchanan Street, and there was two communist stalls on Buchanan Street, one selling Marxist stuff, and the other was the Communist Party. We had two free Palestine stalls and somebody promoting Islam on Buchanan Street, and that's obviously under Nicola Sturgeon's, as you rightly pointed out, Scottish National Party. Mm-hmm. Although you would agree that they should be free to do it, but it's just the fact that
absolutely, I don't have to support them, but they've got a right to whatever. Well, this is the thing. This has to be across the board. While people are being arrested for tweets, whether they be feminists or whether they be guys like yourself, being arrested for tweets that the government deems to be inflammatory, there are many people on the left, and some of them Islamists, who are saying things that are quite obviously and blatantly violent and insightful to violence, and yet they are not arrested, and they're not, they're not censured for it. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a one-sided approach to this by the government. So, and then this is again the problem. Like when people say as libertarians, do you agree that Twitter as a private company should be allowed to ban people? And I say, well, yeah, as a private company, they have the right to ban. They don't owe you a platform. They can ban you for whatever reason they like. However, that's not the case. Twitter wouldn't dare ban somebody, for example, because they were homosexual, or just because they were black, or just because they were disabled. So when a private company can do that, not that I support it, but when a private company can ban somebody just for being gay, black or disabled, then come and talk to me about how the private company should be allowed to ban anything else. Well, and also a lot of these private companies get a lot of government backing, government help and taxpayers' money and tax breaks. So it's not a free market.
But then they're becoming publishers and not actually what they were set up in America to be, which would have been more for a market square. But the other thing is...
Exactly, they claimed they were a platform and that they were not a publisher, and therefore they were not bound by the same regulations as a publisher would be. And now they do edit and control content. So
but they're also interfering in British politics. American companies are interfering in British politics, which is again dangerous for them, because we could literally, although I'm sure you wouldn't do it, I would probably do it from my point of view as threaten to ban them, and I would put threats of banning or fines on them if they're going to do that. If they're going to adversely affect me for the opposition side, for the authoritarian side, they will pay the penalty. And I think you would take a more easy-ozy approach. I wouldn't be taking that easy-ozy approach when foreign companies were interfering in British politics.
Well, there's a fine tradition of Britain and America interfering in politics over. It's something that goes on and has gone on since time immemorial. I think we're just noticing it more now because it's more open and there's more exposure of that kind of thing. I think there's always two ways of looking at this thing. Can the problem be solved with more or less freedom? And I think the problem is better solved with more freedom rather than less.
Well, I actually think it's coming from, I think that, putting on my political head, I think it's actually coming from our political establishment. They're telling them what to do. So it's coming, it's not, they're not just doing it out the blue.
Well, precisely. So who's the problem then? It's not it's the political establishment that's the problem.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to do is to take away government's ability to do that. And government is too powerful. And the reason it's powerful is because it has the capability and the legitimacy. Well, when I say legitimacy, I mean in legalese legitimacy, to take your money and my money by force and redistribute it. And as long as it has the ability to take your property by force, then it will empower itself, and it will, and that's the real issue. You have to starve government of funding, and if you can do that, then what power, what leverage would they have over these companies?
Now, we are covering Scottish politics just now, but I'd be very interested to talk to the British Libertarian Party or the UK Libertarian Party as well, and find out what they're doing, because I'm not really, I've spoken to the guys a wee while ago, but I've not spoken to them recently, and find out where they are. And
well, there's 2 or 3 different groups now. You've got the Libertarian Party UK, which was the group that we were associated with.
Yeah.
And now, out of them, there is now formed a party called the UK Liberty Party.
Is there? Wow.
Yes, there is. It's called the UK Liberty Party, and I don't know the full story and what that sort of
split was.
Divide is about. But you could.
Well, that segs me. That's going to be very interesting to find out about that as well. But that segs me quite well into what's happening in America, because to be fair to you, I would say that the Scottish Libertarian Party seems to be ideologically consistent, and they also seem to be together a lot more. It's much tighter, and there doesn't seem to be the differences which we can see potentially in the American Libertarian Party, which seem to have the shit all over the shop. You seem to actually be somebody to if I was looking from other different places, I would be looking to the Scottish Libertarian Party, who seem to have their act together more than other places, from looking from the outside. And optics is always very important, Tam. The optics are looking a bit strange what's happening in the American Libertarian Party, are they not?
Yeah, it does seem very strange. I think the whole problem is the vote chasing. That's where the problem starts. They've had a wee taste of success. Libertarians are starting to poll round about, at the highest, about 7%, I think, at one point, and at their highest. But that's more than they've ever polled ever, and that was with Gary Johnson. And he had a more kind of like, you could call it a seeker-friendly approach. Don't mention that, and don't mention this, and keep that quiet, and let's appeal to this, let's appeal to the social justice warriors with the soft, touchy-feely stuff. And what happens is you get an influx then of people into the party who don't buy libertarian principles wholesale, and you then experience problems. And as soon as you start vote chasing, I mean, I'm sure people like that would look at us and go, well, the Scottish Libertarian Party might be quite pure and quite, as you say, got their act together, but they're not getting many votes. That's true. But if you have to sell your principles, if you have to change your principles in order to get votes, then what's the point? Before you know it, you're just the Conservative Party. I think that's the root of the problem. Also, there doesn't seem to be the same conciliation. We have the party retains a minarchist position for those people out there who don't know.
You want to maybe explain? You maybe want to explain that for the.
Well, minarchist just basically means that we believe in the party holds a position of the minimal state, which is a night watchman type state. The only thing that the state should take care of is my individual rights and liberties through the government, through the legislature, the police, the army. Or the military, rather. That's the only three things that the government should really take care of. Nothing else. And that's the position that the party holds to. However, there are anarcho-capitalists within the party. I'm one of them, right? And I'm the party leader. However, it's not an issue in as much as if you're an anarcho-capitalist, that's great. The party holds a minarchist position because there'd be no point in us existing otherwise. Okay? We take part in the political process, but we don't have faith in the political process because we know that the political process is corrupt. But it exists, and the government is not just going to go away because I wish it to go away. It's going to be there. It has a monopoly on force and violence. And, you can try and set up your wee anarcho-capitalist commune if you like, and that's great. I'm all for that.
Is that New Hampshire?
Sorry?
Is that New Hampshire?
Well, New Hampshire, there's Free State Project. There's a lot of these things. You've got the Liberland Project. There's a lot of these things going on. And that's all great, and I support it. However, government has all the guns, all the police, all the money, and they will just come and break up your little party. So it has to be a two-fisted approach, a two-pronged approach. Yes, by all means, look at ways of making government irrelevant, whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's setting up your own anarcho-capitalist communes, whether it's setting up your own local government, and doing your best to try and make government irrelevant. But at the same time, you still have to be involved to a degree in the political process to try and make some kind of impact. Even if that's just to try and get your message out to the voters that you don't have to put up with this crap. There is a more excellent way of doing things than this, believe it or not. And government is a cancer. The smaller you can make it, the better. And in my view, it would be better if we didn't have the government at all. But we do have government, and you've got to work around it.
Well, I'll come on to the political compass test in a minute, but the political compass is in like 4 boxes, but what it does is it bends round in itself. So it's almost like a ball.
I've seen it.
So it's almost like a ball. It's not like a... So my point to you is, from you being an anarcho-capitalist to an anarcho-communist or anarcho-syndicalist, there is parallels between, or there is common policy. There's policy they don't agree, but there is a common policy from like Antifa and the anarcho-communist, anarcho-syndicalists to the ANCAPs as well.
Well, here's the problem. I'm perfectly happy for the communists or the socialists to start their own little commune and do things their way and tax each other and beat each other up and whatever else they like to do. As long as they don't impose their values on other people through force. But that's something that they will singularly refuse to do. They are violent. They believe in violence, and they believe in they can talk a lot of bollocks about how they're anarchists. Some of them might be. You know, I've met actual anarcho-socialists and anarcho, but most of them still believe in social government. They still think the government should impose taxation. They still think that the government should take care of their, you know, their social needs. So the only way they can do that is through force. So there's no common ground with them on that, but there's certainly common ground if they want to have their own little. I would never interfere with somebody else's right to live the way they choose on their own private property. They will not afford me that same. They could be as socialist as they like in a libertarian society. However, they would not allow me to exist in their society. I would be, you know.
What's the libertarian, Scottish libertarian policy on firearms? So one of the baby gorillas has put here, why shouldn't the average person have a firearm? So what is the actual underlying position for the...
Why shouldn't the average person have a firearm if the average person is allowed to defend themselves? Okay, and that would include having a firearm. The police are armed. Well, not all the time, but here in the UK, they do get to carry firearms. You know, foreign dignitaries have have bodyguards that are armed. So I don't see that my life is any less important or any less worth defending than theirs. So
Nicola Sturgeon doesn't agree with you. She believes in social justice, which is means that she wants one rule for her and one for you, Tam. So that's social justice. That's you've got to understand the concept. It's one rule for me, and my life is more important than yours. And if you've got certain characteristics, and that's social justice for you. Is that something that you, the Scottish Libertarian Party, is that if you're gay or if you're Muslim or if you've got certain characteristics, that you should have specific rules such as the hate speech rules, the hate speech bill to protect you?
No, I don't believe that groups have rights.
Is that not what the Nazis believed? Is that not what the Nazis believed? Is that what the National Socialists believed, that groups have rights?
They certainly did, as far as their group, more than anybody else. Aryans had special rights and Jews didn't. That was their idea of social justice.
A bit like Nicola Sturgeon's, except the other way, the Scots shouldn't have rights and everybody else should.
I think that every individual has the same amount of rights, no less, no more than anybody else. And that is regardless of whether you are black, white, male, female, trans, gay, straight, bisexual, lesbian. It matters not. You have the same rights as anybody else.
Not under the SNP term.
No, that's true. That's very true. But you asked me what libertarians believe in that, and that's what we believe. But individual rights, not group rights.
Once you start getting elected to the Scottish Parliament, would you reform the hate speech bill?
Well, I would do my damnedest to try, not reform, bugger reforming it. I would scrap it completely.
Yeah.
What was the need for it in the first place?
Hamza Yusuf was getting upset.
You're not allowed to go around beating people up because you don't like them, right? So let's enforce the laws that we already had. If somebody beats somebody up or sets fire to their house or abuses them, it doesn't matter what group that person belongs to. The person who did it should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
But you've got to understand, though, Tam, the police are far too busy with thought crimes and non-criminal offences. They're far too busy now, Tam, for doing that sort of proper police work that you're talking about. It's far too.
I understand that, and they're too busy locking up people for not wearing a mask or whatever. I think if we could get the police force to concentrate on crimes against person and property, and stop concentrating on locking people up for what they inject into their body or anything else, or for what they don't inject into their body, then I think they would get on a lot better. This idea that they have no they've got plenty of manpower when it suits them, the police. As you'll know yourself, you can find yourself very quickly surrounded by more police than you knew existed. But try and get the same police to respond to crimes against person and property, and forget it.
But this is Nicola Sturgeon's agenda. Not only if you look at the architecture as well.
In fairness, it seems to be Boris Johnson's agenda as well.
But is Boris Johnson
and
a globalist?
Prime Minister before him, since Margaret Thatcher at least.
But I mean, I would place every one of these into the globalist agenda category.
Yeah.
It's very we haven't had in the UK a Donald Trump who was probably Nigel was probably as close to being outside the political bubble to actually get that far. I would say.
Yeah, we don't have. There's nobody even I don't think on the horizon who's of that caliber, if I could call it, or that clout, or who's got that determination to change things. But then, there's lots of problems with Trump as well. And you look at some of the things that he achieved. He passed some laws that were sort of not free market, certainly not free market laws. And I think he passed some laws that were quite dodgy in regards to gun ownership as well. So. You've got to be careful, but I think he certainly did set out with the honest intentions of draining the swamp. But the swamp fought back, unfortunately, and seems to have won for the time being.
I obviously left the Scottish Libertarian Party, and I'll just, I don't think we've ever talked about it and what the reason was.
Well, not publicly, anyway.
No. But, yeah, so I think there is, from having the ultra-capitalist system, I think, and I came back from Dubai when the guys had set up the Scottish Libertarian Party, and I thought it was going.
If you want to go into this, we can, and be quite candid about what happened.
No, it's not like that. I don't think you're going to get this. So I came back thinking it was going to be more like and actually having talked to the Liberal Party, I thought it was going to be more like a Liberal or a classical Liberal or a Libertarian Liberal Party. I probably saw it being more centrist, and when meeting the guys and obviously understanding the anarcho-capitalist, which you've already described, and the minarchism, I thought where I am actually in the political spectrum as well, I'm more of an actual centrist, centre-right, but what is you guys refer to as a small L libertarian, but I would say I'm more
call you a conservatarian.
Yeah, I would think that's right. I'm certainly got certain conservative values, but I'm a small L libertarian liberal. I would say, or a classical liberal, whatever terminology you want to use. But I would have thought, to get close to where you want to be, because obviously you're in the bottom right, which I would think in the political spectrum, this we're going to be very interesting to find out where the party is on the political spectrum as well, and where we are just now under Nicola Sturgeon. I would think that there were, to just for that to be a political jump, for that to just go from Nicola Sturgeon, authoritarian globalist, postmodernist Marxist, to freedom, we're all free, we've got proper rules. I'm not saying it can be done, but it is a bit of a political jump. I would have thought that...
Oh, it's a chasm.
Yeah, so I would have thought through more of a classical liberal point of view that it would have been an easier sort of segue into something maybe even between you and I in the political spectrum as well, that's going to be applicable to the populace. One of the things that I don't think capitalism, unrefuted capitalism, is the best thing. I would actually take a Milton Friedman, which is different from like doing universal...
Chicago School, monetarism, basically. Yeah.
No, I'm only talking about in one policy. I'm talking about one policy. I'm not talking about all his monetarism. I'm talking about I do believe in redistribution of wealth. but I believe that just like I don't believe in.
Oh, let's call this. Let's get this interview. What? I'm sitting here talking to a commie.
No,
damn pinko. Sitting there giving us your. I'm a small libertarian. You goddamn pinko.
No,
Fire up the helicopter. Get the helicopter up and running.
So I do, but I think there is certain limitations in capitalism, but I believe in. I believe in Milton Friedman's negative income tax. Right. So that's my point. I believe in the negative income tax, which involves a redistribution. So unlike
just a wee bit of socialism.
Yeah, a wee bit of socialism.
How much poison would you like for your dinner,
just a wee bit poison. A wee bit poison. Okay. I think it benefits. I think it benefits the people having a wee bit poison.
Poison with your dinner will benefit you.
I'm not disagreeing that that's the case, Tam. But I'm just saying I think that's where. There are certain policy things between you and I. I think if you and I were in the political parliament together, political parliament, as political parties together, we would work together on a vast range of things. But I think there are certain things policy-wise that I differ, and I recognise that in myself. And I thought, and having spoken to the liberalists just now, the young fellow Kaid Al-Haddad, I actually felt that politically...
Just a second, if you could clarify for me, David, there's the Liberal Party, and then there's another group calling themselves the Liberalists. Now, as I understood it, Liberalists were this Sargon of Akkad.
The Liberalists aren't a party, as far as I'm aware. They're more of a sort of group.
Okay. So are you talking about the Liberals? Are you talking about the Deke Jackson mob?
Yeah.
Right. Is Deke Jackson still with the Liberal Party?
No, he got kicked out, but I don't think he should have got kicked out though. I think I think it was quite satirical, to be honest with you. Right. I don't think Deke Jackson's the problem. I think Hamza Yousaf's the problem. So I guess
that's very true. He's certainly more of a problem than Deke Jackson.
Yeah. So I don't. Although I wouldn't have done it, I said to Kaid, I wouldn't have done it. I don't think it was an appropriate time. It would have been appropriate at a different time to actually mock it satirically as well. But I don't think doing it in the count was the correct time for it. I think, but he was correct in everything what he was saying. If you actually listen to him, it was actually correct, and him basically taking the rise out of Hamza Yousaf, the Islamo-fascist, basically, I would say.
Well, I don't know if Hamza's an Islamo-fascist, but I know he's certainly an authoritarian, and I know that his hate crime bill is certainly an affront to liberty, and it's and that's enough. You know, I don't really need to know much more about him than that, and he's certainly a man I have disdain for, and no time for whatsoever. And I think Scottish politics would be a damn sight better without his existence.
Yeah, and the great Count Dankula, that's another political coup you had as well. And he beat the communists as well.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, some people would say.
I think he's great. I think I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a lovely fella, and I think he says a lot of sense. He's probably ideologically completely in the right space with you guys as well.
Well, believe it or not, I haven't discussed a lot of policy with Mark. I mean, he came on board, I assume he's read the party policies. I'm assuming that he's read the Constitution, and there was enough in there for him to decide that he was going to join us, which I'm fairly glad he did. He's certainly a huge free speech advocate, and a genuine free speech advocate.
Definitely.
In fact, he the test of any free speech advocate is: are you prepared to extend your free speech to people that you find repugnant, and he certainly is. He believes in free speach for everybody, even people he disagrees with. So he was welcome on board for that, and he stood the parliamentary elections for us.
Beat the communists.
Sorry?
He beat the communists. in Motherwell
and
and
he beat the commies, you know, which is good, you know. That's there's nothing better than commie tears, you know. So yeah, good. I congratulate him on that.
Will he have
so, I mean, about having discussed policy at length with him, he does his own. I mean, I said to him when he joined, you can be as involved or as uninvolved as you wish to be. You can be as high profile, as low profile as you wish to be. He does his own thing. He's got his own business that he runs, being a podcaster, and he's into the gaming thing. That's what he does. So he's at this moment in time, he's just an ordinary member. However, if he wishes to do anything more, I'm open to any suggestions from him. But he's obviously he's a new father as well, so he's obviously concentrating on that and his own life and his own plans. So one
of the guys has put in, one of my baby gorillas has put in, when is Count Dankula doing a mad lad on Tam Laird and Davy Valentine? He'd have to do a few in mine alone, Tam.
I'm going to be honest, David, I think yours would be a bit more interesting than mine. I think so, you know. But mine would be boring, you know, compared to the guys that he did, you know, Killdozer and all these.
That was brilliant. He's brilliant. He's absolutely superb. He's absolutely great.
I like his. I love his mad lads, you know, the Catman of Greenock, you know that, and you know, Purple Aki, you know.
one of my.
For those of you who've never watched these Dankula's mad lads, it's really it's brilliant. It's worth doing, yeah.
Yeah, Count Dankula and Mad Lads, yeah.
And informative, yeah.
One of my baby gorillas said, Dank's nearly in the papers as much as I am. They've got real sand in their vaginas for me and Dank press.
Well, I know they've certainly gave you a hard time, and Dankula, well, I expect when he joined us, I expected a wee bit more flack, but they're clearly, even MSM are even bored now. They've got other targets to move on to. So, and that's it. And for the record, I shouldn't have to say it, but I will. Mark is not a Nazi. He is not a racist.
No.
You know, nowhere near it. You know.
No.
And if he was, he'd certainly have an issue joining the Scottish Libertarian Party because.
It's in the wrong. It's not in the far left of the political authoritarian left of the political spectrum.
Or right, for that matter. So yeah, it would make
it's not about National Socialism because National Socialism is in the authoritarian left of the political spectrum, and you're in the bottom right of the political compass.
Well, I don't know. We've not done the thing yet.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, okay. Oh, but when we do it though, am I supposed to be speaking from my personal perspective or from the party's perspective?
Yeah. Like, so this is a map of where this is the. On the political compass, they actually do this, and they sort of just project where they think.
How accurate do you think it is, though, David?
I think it's within one, probably moving up right one square. So I think somebody's done a sort of analysis on it, and I think it's one right square. I think you're somewhere middle as it'll be quite interesting, but middle centre of the bottom right. I'll be interested to find out, but that'll be fascinating. You want to do it just now? Then we'll chat about it.
Whenever you're ready, unless you,
no, let's do it. It's good. I think we're all fascinated. I'm actually fascinated to find out where the party is going to be. And it's very difficult to understand for you as leader to actually be able to project amongst all of it. But I'll give everybody else.
I'll try and stick to what I know is party policy and party position, so that's, and if you're interested, I'll give you, if there's any discrepancy, I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah, because that's what it'll have to be. Yeah. It'll have to be like that. But I think coming from you as the party leader, that actually gives.
Well, I'll try and keep it on song in terms of party policy and party position.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I'd like you to do as well, Tam, if possible, is to read out the question and then give us the sort of your political analysis of the question when you're actually doing it as well. I'll keep quiet because I don't want to influence what you're actually saying. If there's any clarity of question, then I'm quite happy to do that. But if you just read out.
Well, right off the bat, you see, this is the problem I kind of have with these kind of things. Okay, if economic globalisation is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations.
Well, let me tell you, some of the questions in this are abstract, but what it does, what it is deliberate. I think this guy, whoever's done it or woman's done it, is a genius, because although the questions in themselves are abstract, it gets it, for some reason, it's able to drill down, and it got me nearly exactly right. It was a centre right libertarian liberal, and it's got it exactly right. So even though the questions are abstract, it somehow drills down into the politics and gets it right.
I will answer, but here's the problem, right here. It should primarily serve humanity. I mean, I don't know if it should serve humanity. It should serve individuals. You know, that's the issue I would have with us. So, but if it's inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of national. See, there should be another box there that says mildly agrees or something like that. You know, so I'll have to say, well, I'll go for agree on that one then. Okay.
Why is that though?
Because it shouldn't serve the transnational corporations. I don't think that should be the primarily. I'm looking at it as humanity as a collection of individuals, you know. And if the transnational corporations have got their policy right, then they should be serving individuals, because that's how they'll make a profit, by serving people. Mm-hmm. I think the problem with that question, again, there's problems, but I'll put agree, because I can't. There's no box there for mildly agree, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'll put agree. And again, I'm trying to put it in context of party policy. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. Disagree.
Why is that?
But I think it's inevitable for a libertarian. Like, you know, first of all, who is my country? What is my country? You need to define that to start with. And let's suppose my country decided to go to war with another for no other reason than, you know, there was no defensive moral reason for it to do it.
Then are you talking about Tony Blair?
Yeah. There's Tony Blair, you know, bombing other countries for political reasons. I'm not in favour of it. So yeah, disagree.
What's your thoughts? Let me just interrupt you and think. There's been talk that Tony Blair may come back as the Labour Party leader. What was your thoughts on that, Tom?
I'd rather he wasn't a rip-roaring success in my view as leader in the first place. He was from the point of view of the Labour Party, obviously. So I guess from the Labour Party's point of view, it would be a good move, but for the rest of humanity, and for me in particular, it would be a tragedy.
Obviously, the Scottish Labour Party are going right down the toilet. I mean, they have got one MP, and it could only manage to get 2 MSPs elected first past the post. Yeah. If that million people vote had gone to other nationalist parties, I said I was speaking to All for Unity, the Unionist second vote, the second vote, and the number of Unionists in the actual Scottish Parliament would have been decimated. If nobody had voted for the SNP, had voted for the Scottish Libertarian Party, the Labour Party, the Unionist vote would have been decimated in that. So, do you think both them and the Liberal Democrats, which I would describe as illiberal and undemocratic, are? Do you think that they're on the wane as well? Do you think the five systems, the five parties, are there to be replaced?
Look, it makes, the heads of the five families, they're all gangsters. It's just, which one's going to rob you least? And the whole point is, the Labour Party became the Conservatives and the Conservatives became the Labour Party. Regardless of whether it's Labour or Tory, the same policies seem to go through. So, I really... It makes no difference. I'm opposed to both the Conservatives and the Labour Party because they currently, at least, they're both big government parties.
All for unity.
As the Conservative Party, the least worst, maybe.
All for Unity is trying to bring them all together as like the Lib Lab Con party they've already brought in.
Yeah, I think that's doomed to failure. But in Scotland, I think it's doomed to failure. But who knows?
Okay, boss.
No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Strongly agree. And I'll qualify that. I can say I feel privileged. I feel very privileged to be born in this country. I feel very privileged to be Scottish. I'm certainly proud of a lot of the achievements of my fellow countrymen and of my country, but my parents just had sex here, so I just happened to be born here. So I don't think you can be proud of anything that you have not particularly achieved yourself. You can certainly take pride in somebody else's achievements, but unless they're your achievements, no. So I think it's foolish to say you're proud to be Scottish.
Well, let me ask you this, because obviously we've got a problem in Scotland and a declining birth rate. Nicola Sturgeon seems to think that the only option is to actually replace the population by open door immigration. Obviously, she hasn't contributed to any births herself, which may explain if she's a lesbian why she's not. But she seems to be making it hard for heterosexual couples to interact. I mean, obviously...
But in fairness, we don't know that. She may just be incapable of having children.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But there's a few lesbians that have not had children. Obviously, if you get penisophobia and you're trans exclusionary radical feminist, that it's very difficult for you to reproduce if you don't like guys. I mean, it's a simple biology.
Well, I mean, Ruth Davidson had a baby.
Yeah, I know, but she would have to really have 3 babies for us not to have a declining birth rate.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. But it's not just. I don't think we can confidently blame the falling population rate just on either lesbianism or homosexuality.
Or feminism. Feminism, though, I mean,
you could possibly lay some of it at the door of feminism, but I think it's more to do with heterosexual couples don't have the same. Look at me. I had one child. I'm divorced now. I had one child. Didn't have any more. I'm not in a hurry to have any more. So whose door can I lay that on? I wasn't particularly good at fatherhood the first time round. There's no reason to suggest that will improve with age. It would be good coming from me to tell other people that they should have kids, but we definitely have a population crisis, and I don't think a permanent or good solution is to import people personally. But there you go.
But if we import Islam, then through Islam, if you have sex outside, so if you get raped and you have sex outside marriage, then you punish the woman as well. They actually imprison the woman because she's had sex outside marriage, even if she's raped. There's been women in the Middle East and several countries have been put in prison because of it. They've been raped and they've complained, and then they get done for having sex outside marriage.
Yeah.
So the onus is then it becomes a misogynist type culture rather than a feminist type culture.
Yeah, I get it. I think we're a long way away from that currently, but the issue is our own government. Always. That's the issue. Who makes the laws? Who decides these things?
Nicola Sturgeon, who's not had any kids.
Nicola Sturgeon, Boris Johnson, well, he's had a few kids, but it's our own people, our own government who causes this situation.
Oh.
So, I don't suppose it helped going over and bombing foreign countries and creating a situation in which there was thousands of refugees. But
I mean, that just fits into the globalist agenda as well. I mean, to do that and then to say, "Oh, they're all refugees. Come on in here, guys." That's obviously fitting into the globalist agenda.
Yeah.
And what's the Scottish Libertarians' take on if you were in charge of the...
We're not going to get to that.
Okay, let's go back and we'll come back to that in a second then. Okay.
Don't want to preempt.
Yeah. Can you see
Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Disagree.
Right, what's the logic there?
I think. Okay, I'm not a scientist, right? So I can't really. I know there's all sorts of arguments going on. I don't think any. I don't think I've got any superior qualities to, let's say, Thomas Sowell, for example. And we're different races. So, and there's countless examples. Do I have superior qualities to George Floyd? Certainly. But I don't think it's anything to do with our race. I think certainly Western civilization has many superior qualities to other civilizations or other cultures. But when it comes to race, that somehow inherently, our race has superior qualities, I would say I would disagree with that. And I would definitely think the party would disagree with that.
Do you think people who don't look like you are a different race?
Who don't look like me?
No, but I'm just saying, well, whoever you would class as a race,
Right, okay. So, black people are a different race, Chinese people are a different race, Japanese people are a different race. Yeah.
Are they a different ethnicity or are they a different race? Are they part of the human race or are they a different ethnicity?
Well, now you're getting into semantics. I mean, like, you could argue that we're all one race, the human race. So if that's what you mean, then fine. If you want to call it ethnicity as opposed to race, okay.
Okay.
But the question was, do you think our race? So if that's the human race, I've got no idea. Maybe there's the Vogon race or the Vulcan race out there who could have superior qualities. I've got no idea. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree.
What's your thoughts?
Because there might be many instances where the enemy of my enemy is indeed my friend, but there are plenty of instances of where the enemy of my enemy is also a massive bellend,
Mm-hmm.
So what we got here, right? Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. Agree.
What context?
Well, I'm not really a big believer in international law. So if international law said one thing and the defence of my country, defence of my individual rights and freedoms said another, then it definitely demands military action. I don't give a damn what the United Nations says. A good example would be possibly Israel, where the United Nations says one thing and Israel does another. I'm not making a comment on whether the action is justified, but if Israel thinks it's justified, genuinely thinks it's justified in the defence of its borders, then to hell with the United Nations. Or any other supranational body for that matter. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment.
That's me. I'm the personification of that.
Okay, I'll agree, and I'll agree on that one.
What's the logic?
Well, I think, like it says, there's a fusion of sometimes of information and entertainment, and people don't know the difference. But I don't think it's something that's that needs to be permanently disabling. You know, I think we can get around it, providing, again, get government out of there, and we'll do absolutely fine. Are people ultimately divided more by class than by nationality? I would agree. I think we could agree. Yeah. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Well, this is assuming, again, that government should have control of inflation by interfering in the economy. So I don't know that, I mean, what are we talking about here? We're talking about government, so controlling inflation. Strongly disagree, right? Because corporations can't be trusted voluntarily to protect the environment, they require regulation. I don't think they require any more regulation than your ordinary person. You know, don't hurt people, don't take their stuff, don't harm people. So again, who's doing the regulating? Is it the government, or is it the courts? Who's doing the regulating here? So I really don't know. What kind of regulation are we talking about? You know, I'm going to have to disagree. From each according to his ability, strongly disagree.
Tell us what's the logic behind that?
Well, who gets to decide? From each according to his ability, and then to each according to his need. Who gets to decide what your needs are, or what another individual's needs are? Who decides that?
Nicola Sturgeon.
Right. Well, bollocks to that. So strongly disagree. The freer the market, the freer the people. Strongly agree. I think it's self-evident.
Yeah, especially being the libertarians.
Yeah. Again, I need to keep trying to think as well. It's not just my opinion, it's the party's position as well. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now bottled, branded consumer product. Disagree. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Strongly disagree.
What's the logic behind that?
Well, we as libertarians, we believe in property rights. Without property rights, there are no other rights. So if you don't own land, then it's impossible for somebody else to steal it from you. So if I do indeed own land, it's mine. I've mixed my labour with the land, and I own it. Right, it's mine. I should be able to dispose of that property as I see fit, and if that includes selling it, so be it.
You'll be a lot happier with the Great Reset when you don't have to own your own property.
Well, apparently so. Yeah. Klaus Schwab can kiss my shiny hiney.
Good, mate.
It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Strongly disagree. I don't think simply manipulating money is necessarily, surely that's a skill in of itself. And define manipulating money. You know, if I put money on a horse and I wins, am I manipulating money? I don't know. You know, Protectionism is something necessary in trade. Strongly disagree.
Why is that?
Well, that's a party policy. We're not a protectionist party. And it makes no sense. Protectionism, why are you preventing me from buying products wherever I see fit, legitimately? Okay, what we got here? Next one. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Strongly agree. The rich are too highly taxed.
Hold on, let me go back
Here's
to
another one. I think everybody's too highly taxed.
What's the logic behind this then,
social responsibility? Well, that's its function. That's the function of a company, is to deliver a profit to its shareholders, or to deliver a profit. Even if I'm the sole shareholder as the owner, I'm in the company to make a profit. And I think at the end of the day, when companies do that, they actually make a better job of things than when they start getting into social justice and thinking it's their business to try and tell people how they should live their lives. How does
the Scottish Libertarian Party prevent monopolies in the natural course of capitalism?
Well, you'd have to first of all decide whether or not a monopoly is in of itself a bad thing. There's two types of monopoly, really, at the end of the day. You can have a coercive monopoly, or you can have an efficiency monopoly. So we'd certainly oppose coercive monopolies, but the most efficient way for a coercive monopoly to take place is under government supervision. As in terms of an efficiency monopoly, if a company is just so damn good at producing products and services efficiently and cheaply, that's a good monopoly as far as I'm concerned. And as long as it's not coercive, I can at least try to compete with it and provide a better service. The rich are too highly taxed. Everybody's too highly taxed. So again, I will strongly agree, but the caveat that everybody's too highly taxed. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Agree.
What's the logic there?
Well, how do I prevent them from not getting higher standards of medical care with their money?
State regulation.
Laws prohibiting them from getting a higher standard of medical care because of their money. I'm not prepared to do that. So, and neither is the party. Governments should penalise businesses that mislead the public. Agree. But it should be through the courts. Courts should penalise. It's basically consumer fraud. If you're marketing a product that doesn't do what it says in the tin, you could be, and if you're deliberately lying about it and it causes some sort of problem, yeah, absolutely. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Strongly disagree.
What's the logic?
Well, a free market. All right, how would it be a free market if you put restrictions on multinationals? That wouldn't be a free market then. It would be a restricted market. So I believe in a free market. So if that means that, again, what do you mean by a predator? Does that mean that they've got more money, more wherewithal to come in and create and buy up the opposition? Fair enough. If that's what they do, that's what they do. As long as there's no laws by government preventing me from competing, then that's fine.
I think a predator's the thing in the film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, mate.
Right, okay. Has he got his own company now? What does he make?
Predators.
Right, okay. Okay, here we go. The party has no policy on this. So, abortion when the woman's life is not threatened should always be illegal. Disagree. And that's because of the party has no policy on it. If you want my own opinion, do you?
Yeah.
I think that to take another human life and any other reason other than self-defense is wrong, and that includes life in the womb.
Well, you, the family planning, the family party, and the UKIP seem to be on a similar ilk on that one as well.
Again, I'm speaking personally and not for the party on that one. So so we'll leave that where it is. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree.
And the logic behind that being a libertarianist?
Well, I think I should definitely be questioned.
Nicola Sturgeon doesn't think she should be questioned, though.
An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. I'll go for agree on that one. I'll tell you, biblically speaking, and that's where that's from. Biblically speaking, that is talking about compensation. So in other words, you take like for like, you know. If somebody owes you £1,000, you take the £1,000. You don't take more than that. You know, if somebody owes you, somebody causes you to lose an eye, they should compensate you accordingly. You don't take the whole head. So I'll just agree with that one for those reasons. And in terms of compensation, taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theatres or museums that kind of. Yeah, I strongly agree. The party strongly agrees.
Why is that?
Well, we're hard. We don't agree with forcing people to give us money for hospitals. Never mind bloody theatres, you know. And
how would they be funded?
Well, do you like theatres, David?
I'm a big. I should be on the stage. I'm a big. No,
it leaves it for.
I don't. The last time I was on a romantic date, I took a girl, and that was a number of years ago, to a theatre.
Okay, cool. Well, great. You'll fund it. You'll fund it by going to the theatre. You'll fund it by starting an organisation called Friends of the Theatre or Friends of the Arts or whatever, and you will fund it through voluntary contributions. But under no circumstances should somebody be threatened to be thrown into a cage beside murderers and rapists because they will not pay for your theatre or museum. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. We strongly agree.
So what are the kids going to do? Can the kids just go out and do what they want?
Well, they can do as much as they want, the same as you can. Right? They can't hurt people or take their stuff. But they should do what the parents want them to do. If the parents wish them to attend school, then that's up to the parent. If the parent does not wish them to attend school, again, that's up to the parent. And if the child itself wishes to attend school, that's pretty good. However, if the child itself and the parents decide that it's better to just take the kid fishing, that's absolutely good with us.
There seems to be a lot of parents pulling their children because of the critical race theory nonsense in America just now out of schools.
Yeah. I think you should be able to pull your kid out of school for whatever reason you like.
But apart from homeschooling, should they be able to set up alternative schools?
Yes, absolutely.
That's not getting dictated to by this critical race theory?
It shouldn't be anything to do with the government, how you educate your children.
Okay.
All people have their rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Disagree. I mean, who gets to decide that, you know, and enforce it? Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. Oh, again, the party has no hard, fast policy on this. I think most libertarians might suggest that that's a violation of the non-aggression principle. Oh, I'm going to go for disagree on that one, but I would say it's up to parents how they bring up their children.
So if they wanted to scalp that child about the house, how far can just let the parents be the total guardians of the child? How far can that go? Batter them with bells?
I'm guessing if it causes damage to the child physically, you know, then it might be a concern for the police.
In Islam, it says it's okay to slap your wife. Would that be a matter of a family matter for the?
Yes, but as any Islamic scholar will tell you, they just mean tapping her lightly with a toothbrush or a sock.
Nice, does I?
Have you heard that one?
Yes, of course. I also know
it's funny though, because the exact same word to scourge, you know, admonish your wife to her boudoir and scourge her. It's exactly the same word that's used to describe the beating of a camel or the beating of a criminal. So I don't know where this sock or toothbrush came in. Even if it was, I mean, is that not a bit insulting? You slap your wife about the with one of your honking soaks. I saw you talking. I think maybe my wife would have preferred a beater with a stick than one of my socks. You know? Thank God I'm not a Muslim.
What was I going to say? I saw you talking.
And in that, you know, Islamophobic comment. Let's move swiftly along.
Hold on, I saw you talking to. I just saw it. Just came up on the internet, and it was a throwback. I think I was down reporting on one of the marches, or I don't know if it was a Freedom Day, and you were talking to Mohammed Hijab. And you had and it's on that. I just popped up on my internet yesterday, funnily enough, and you were having a chat about Islam, and but one of the things that I don't know if they were covered was Talia, where it's to lie to non-Muslims for the advancement of Islam. And that is part of the doctrine, is to actually lie on behalf of, to I think manipulate the non-Muslim to understand, like when he talks about what's the one? Tax, what's it, jizya? Like the tax of non-Muslims. I think it's for a security tax to make sure that they're all right, and you have to pay this tax. Well,
that's exactly what our government tells us, though. You know, we have to pay this tax to protect you. You know, and that's basically what, you know, Islam.
But I think that's based on jizya is based on the non-Muslims have to pay the jizya, or not the Muslims have to pay it.
They pay the jizya, to keep to be able to be allowed to still practice their faith and not convert to Islam. Mm-hmm. I think some Islamic countries, I don't know if Jordan has it, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Some, very few, might be more enlightened. I've no idea, but anyway. So, it's natural for children to keep some secrets from the parents. I think it's natural I agree. Yeah.
Did you have secrets, Tom?
It's natural. Whether it's a good thing or not is another question. But it's certainly natural.
Did you have any secrets you want to tell us from your parents that you want to tell us on the Guerilla TV channel?
Secrets?
From your parents?
Well, my mum's dead, but my dad's still alive, so you're going to have to wait for that one. Long may he live. So I hope I don't have to tell you any of my secrets for quite some time. Yeah. So, right. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offence. Strongly agree.
All the Scottish Libertarians
or any other drug.
What is the situation? What's the policy on all drugs from the Scottish Libertarian Party?
Providing that it's voluntary, you want to do it, knock yourself out. You can take strychnine if you want. I don't suggest it. I don't think it's a good idea. I'd rather you didn't. But it's entirely up to you. If you want to take drugs, knock yourself out.
We've got the largest death rates in Western Europe just now under the SNP's policy.
Yeah.
Would drug addiction and any other sorts of compulsive behavioural patterns be addressed as a health issue, and how would that be treated? See, I had no money and I had to get treated for an addiction and being compulsive and something I did that was being destructive to me and other people around me. How does that work in a libertarian society?
Well, the destructive to other people around you is a different issue. What do you mean by that? Do you mean that you get mad with it and attack people, or do you mean that it's just a drain on your family?
Also emotionally, I think, especially if you've got underlying mental health issues, if you take say for instance you've got bipolar or depression, and you take a depressive like alcohol, it can really affect you differently than people who don't have the underlying condition. So how would I fix myself if I don't have any money to actually get the help? And it could cause societal problems that could be addressed quite easier if we actually contributed, or were contributing to a central fund to actually help people. Yeah,
it could be easier, but I don't think ease is the issue. Again, libertarian policy, taxation's theft, okay? And I don't think okay, we do have a health service. It does exist. And while it does, you could argue about whether or not addiction should be treated by the National Health Service. Personally, I would like to see in a system where there's less taxation, you have more money to give to whatever private charity or institution you wish. There's many charities out there that deal with drug addictions and drug problems. I think the money would be better used and better managed by them than it would by government through voluntary contributions. So I think that would be that's a better option than government doing it. So the prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. I have no idea because that's a matter again for parents. I don't, it's not down to me to tell schools and parents what the school should equip their child for. But I'll go for agree, because that's better than some of the stuff they're doing. If they at least equip the kids to look for jobs, that would be good. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. By who? By government. Strongly disagree. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. Again, whose children? My children? I don't know. Again, party's got no policy on this, so I'll disagree. There are no savage and civilized peoples, there are only different cultures. Disagree. I think it's painfully obvious that some cultures, both past and present, are preferable in whosever point of view, to others.
But the pygmy cannibals of the Congo surely are just by eating other people and shrinking their heads. Well, are only acting as libertarians. It might be
just their culture, but I don't like their culture. If that's
but surely they're just acting as libertarians.
I prefer they just drank wine and went to the opera. personally. Is that racist? Okay. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Strongly agree. Yeah.
What's
if
the
a
logic?
man will not work, he should not eat. When you are troubled, it is better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Bloody hell, is it? You know what? Really, parties have got a policy on this kind of thing?
No, I think a lot of time it's for individuals, but by actually doing these questions, it does actually point you on the.
Okay, I'll say agree then.
And also because you're the leader of the party, you will have probably a stronger influence in some other aspects of the party as well.
Okay, yeah. I don't think I should be telling people whether they should be bothered about their troubles or just to keep cheerful. I don't know if that's my remit, you know. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Strongly disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for us all. Disagree. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Strongly agree. People might talk to me about defunding the BBC. I defunded the BBC years ago, mate.
Yeah, and me.
Very simple. Yeah.
Would you privatise it? Would you? What's the party policy on privatisation or subscription model
for the BBC?
Yeah.
Well, it's none of our business. You know, do you want the BBC? Then subscribe to it. You know, I don't think it's a matter for government, but it should definitely not be funded by the taxpayer. Either through the licence fee or through a media tax, which I suspect Boris might try to bring in if he gets rid of the licence fee.
No, but would you guys privatise or would you put it on a subscription model?
But surely if it's on a subscription model, it is privatised.
No.
How do you mean? Then?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure how the underlying thing maybe still be held by the government or by.
All right. Okay. So should it be owned by the government? Preferably not. Yeah. Because if it's owned by the government, tax money is going to get in there somewhere. So no. Yeah. Our civil liberties have been excessively curbed in the name of counter-terrorism. I would agree. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments and that delays progress in a democratic body. I would have to strongly agree. I think that's technically correct. Doesn't justify it, but it's technically correct. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. Strongly disagree. Because then you got to get in, what's a wrongdoer? You know, you're a wrongdoer, Davey, as far as the government's concerned.
Well, I don't doubt that for a minute.
Yeah. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. Oh, right. It depends on your contract, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that the state should be able to do it, so I'm going to go for disagree on that one. However, in Libertopia, you could subscribe, you could enter into a contract with your landlord, for example, that says if you piss on his carpet, he'll come round and behead you. And if you've signed that contract of your own free will, then there you go. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Strongly disagree.
Oh, I was going to ask you something as well. I forgot to ask you because we were talking about the social media, and so while you said from a libertarian point of view that they could, it's their right to kick me off the platform. Surely add photographs and my dead friends that I might not be or won't get back, and from them not returning my copyright that I basically lent them. Surely the things like photographs.
What's in the contract, David?
Well, I'm not quite sure. Nobody read it. They just tried to put an X in the box.
Then you should have read the small print and weep. You know.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at it. Let's look at what the contract is. And if the contract states that is indeed your property and they should give you it back, then they should proceed on those lines legally. If, however, I think you'll find probably the contract isn't in your favour that way, then you're in stump, obviously.
I think the signing of the contract should be more precise as well. I think something an X in a box without presenting the contract has questionable legal bearings from the start.
Maybe you should have demanded that before you actually tick the box. But how
can you don't answer your thing? You can't demand it. It's a practical impossibility. They don't interact.
Well, you just don't sign up to it. You go, dear Twitter, unless you send me a paper contract that I can get signed and witnessed, I do not subscribe to your services.
But I would suspect that there should be some, and this is probably where we would differ, that there should be some government protection of me as the individual from an unscrupulous contract. Well, you could go along with doing that for nothing. Then, if they don't do that, if none of them, that means you wouldn't go on the internet. So there would be no protections. Yeah. Okay, I know that.
That would in a free market, that would give somebody else an opportunity to start another internet company that did do that.
Oh.
You, for example, you could say, Davy's Guerilla TV internet company, we will offer you a proper contract.
And present it properly. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Says who? I mean, again, this is subject. Strongly disagree. Because it's not my business to tell other people. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. Ooh. Again, in Libertopia, that's going to be contractual and what particular system you subscribe to. However, under the current system, I say yes. Party doesn't have a particular... Well, that's not true. Wait a minute. Hold fire on that. I'm sure there's something in our policies about rehabilitation, but it's what's more important. Okay, I'm going to agree. I think punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. It's a waste of time to try and rehabilitate some criminals. Again, it's not my call. Personally, I would agree with that, but speaking for the party, we'll go for disagree.
What's the party's policy for prisons and being in prison? What's the party policy for that?
Well, it's something that's a work in progress in terms of crime and punishment. We're having a look at that at the moment, and we're working on a full policy on that. But as long as it's under state control, I think the function of the system is to punish those that are guilty of crimes against person and property.
Would you bring in a polygraph test or a lie detector test to aid the police to find out if people are lying or if there's deception?
I don't know how reliable those things are.
But nothing's really reliable. Then there's everything is underlying.
Well, no, I mean, I think the time-honoured system of trying the evidence against at the end of the day, you're not really trying to establish whether that person is guilty or not. You're trying to establish whether or not the Crown has a case against them and whether that case is proven or not proven. Mm. That's really what you're trying to establish.
Do you think it could be an aid? Do you think it could be an aid for criminal?
It could be, and this again is something that maybe a free market could establish. But how do you force somebody to to comply with a lie detector test?
Well, say for instance,
if you've got the right to remain silent, how does that work with a lie detector
well, say
test?
It's a sex crime, right? And it's just my word against yours, right? So you and I are the protagonists in this. So I'm you're the victim. I'm the aggressor. You have decided to take the lie detector test and you've passed it, and I've said that I'm not taking the lie detector test. Surely, if I was the aggressor and you were lying as the alleged victim, then surely it would be in my interest as the aggressor.
But that would be voluntarily, David.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. But surely, as a libertarian, that's what it should be.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I think the question was, should they be compelled? Can we have a look at the question again? I think it was to do with compulsion. Where did it go?
It's this one, I think.
Oh, we obviously missed one.
No, we started talking about something. Oh, there is.
So did you just ask me about lie detectors? Okay, as long as it's not compelled, fine.
Mm-hmm. Because it's my word against yours, and if you actually use the lie detector, surely it could be seen as an aid where there isn't any witnesses. Surely it could be an aid to the.
But there's all sorts of manipulation and shenanigans that could go on as well. So it should not be compulsory. And I don't know if the evidence should be admissible. There's too many questions to be answered and asked and answered there, I think.
But so let me put this scenario. Say that I said I didn't do it. The lie detector test came back and said I didn't do it, and the lie detector test said you were lying. Why would that three-way piece of evidence not be substantial in a court of law, or certainly should be looked at and reflected on?
Again, we need to get to the bottom of just how reliable these machines are.
Well, I think we need to do some sort of overall testing on what these are, and also
lie detectors can be fooled.
Yeah, and also if you're a
sociopath can pass a lie detector.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going to say. So there's certain conditions, but then again, you would have to look at if that person was a sociopath, so that can be checked as well. Anyway, carry on, mate.
Yeah. Okay, the business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Again, says who? So I'd have to disagree with that statement because it's not my call to make. I might think so, but somebody else might not. So it's up to them who they spend their money with. And why can't an artist or a writer also be a business person at the same time? So mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Party has no policy on this, so I'm going to have to disagree with it. But personally, maybe I might think that the woman I'm married to, who's the mother, her first duty is in the home. Maybe she might think that, but maybe somebody else doesn't share that belief. So I'm not in the business of enforcing my beliefs on other people. Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. Maybe they are, but you would need to give me specifics. Okay, I'll go for agree because I'm sure it's happening somewhere. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Disagree.
No, second last page. Why did you disagree with that last one?
Explained. Eh?
Why did you disagree with the last one?
What was it again?
Oh God, I can't remember. I can't go back. That's it.
Okay. Right, astrology accurately explains many things. Again, believe it or not, the party has no policy on astrology. I'll strongly disagree. You cannot be moral without being religious. On behalf of the party, I would have to disagree with that one. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuine disadvantaged. Strongly agree. Some people are naturally unlucky. Disagree. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Disagree.
What's the party's policy on denominational schools?
You can have any denominational school you like as long as you pay for it.
Could you have racial schools then, or what would be called?
You can have a Satanist school if you like.
Uh-huh.
As long as you pay for it.
Is that where Tony Blair went?
Sorry?
Is that where Tony Blair went?
No, he'll probably be the headmaster of that one. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Again, from whose point of view? So I, on behalf of the party, disagree. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Well, again, there's no party policy on this. So, again, on behalf of the party, I would have to agree. But it's, again, we think these institutions should be private, so it's entirely up to them who they adopt children to. Adopt out children to. Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Agree.
Would you, obviously with that sort of thing, would you have some sort of regulation in there for supervising if it's a privatised company, supervising the adoption process when it's children that are involved?
Well, it's supervised just in as much as the police supervise anything, you know? Mm-hmm. If there's allegations of any impropriety or illegality, that should be investigated.
Well, is child sex, if having sex with children, if it's consensual, what's the party policy on that?
If it's consensual, well, I don't. You'd have to make a decision at what age a child becomes an adult. Once you've decided that, right, it's not a child anymore, it's an adult, then you have to agree it can consent to all sorts of things.
Well, in Islam, it's 9 then, because obviously they have the period in that point. Would you support an Islamic sort of approach to having sex with children after 9?
Well, Muslims can do what they like within their own community and their own society, but they're not allowed to do it. They're not allowed to either enforce it or carry it out on anybody else.
But that's not how they see it. They believe the Prophet Muhammad.
Well, I'm not interested in how they see it in those terms. You're not allowed to enforce any of your beliefs, whether religious or political or social, on anybody. No matter what.
But there seems to be, and I was watching Anne-Marie Waters for Britain last night, and there seems to be an ongoing raping of children in the north of England. Both the Labour Party and the Conservatives don't seem to be doing anything about it. Or raping by Muslims on non-Muslims. And so Anne-Marie Waters said there was 2 children of up 5, and it's happening on a daily basis just now.
Obviously, I don't know all the specifics, but if those findings are true, there's clearly a problem. And again, that's a matter for our own government, our own authorities and the police, that they are not doing their job. Mm. They're not doing their job. Mm-hmm. It's that simple.
But obviously under the 2-party state that we've got because of the voting for Westminster, you've either got the Conservatives, so if neither of them are doing their jobs, how are you going to change it?
Well, with great difficulty, it's first of all, people need to develop stronger communities themselves, their own communities, non-Islamic communities have their own rules, maybe their own security services, and try and fight for people the right to defend their own property and own person. So certainly, if regardless of what religious persuasion, or if you rape my daughter or granddaughter, you're gonna die, really, If I'm allowed to defend my own borders, if I'm allowed to be armed, and somebody violates my personal property, you're gonna be sorry.
Would the Scottish Libertarian Party, just now from the polls, it looks like there's only maybe 52% for the Unionists, 48% for the Nationalists. If Nicola Sturgeon does get another referendum for a Scottish independence referendum, and she fails, that's going to have major problems, not just for the SNP, but for the independents, the nationalist full demographic of parties, which obviously the SNP are but one. Would the Scottish Libertarian Party back, if a second referendum failed, would the Scottish Libertarian Party back a Devo Max referendum, or should a Devo Max referendum be called before an independence referendum, with the greater likelihood of a Devo Max referendum winning, because you would still be in the Union, but you would get more powers to control your own budget in Westminster, and you would also not go back to being in the EU.
I support Devo Max in this sense, that we should devolve power away from government as much as possible. Devo Max for me would be to devolve powers away from Holyrood as well, and out to smaller subsidiarity. Get it out to smaller communities, get it out to local level. That's Devo Max as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care whether it's Westminster or whether it's Holyrood or whether it's Brussels. Government's a cancer, and the closer you can bring this type of decision making to the local community, then the better that is. So that would be my idea of Devo Max.
Aye, but back to my political reality of the Devil Max. What would you actually support? Would the SNP support? Oh, sorry, would the Scottish Libertarian Party support a Devil Max?
They need to make their mind up what they're having a referendum about. Is it about Devil Max or is it independence?
Well, no. Right, so just now, the likelihood is the Unionists might win a second. It looks like from the polls that Unionists would win a second referendum, which would greatly impinge upon the Scottish National Party. But if you had a Devo Max, the Devo Max bill, which means we would still be in the UK Union, but we would get more powers to the Scottish, which would bring it closer, as you said, to the individual. But we would get more powers brought back from Westminster to be able to control our economy. I
believe it's the party position that we would support that.
Yeah, right. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
I'm sure somebody will correct me. Okay, what goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I strongly agree.
What was that? What's that? Yeah, that's just.
Okay. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree.
Yeah, have you felt like that before?
No, all I mean is, all I mean is it's about feeling, right? So no one can feel. You can feel naturally anything. So
I feel like a woman.
Well, there you go. Right, these days, openness about sex has gone too far. What's that driving at, really?
What's
okay,
the
I'll go
party's
from a
policy?
party point of view. Disagree.
Oh, here we go. This is us. So I would definitely say you're in the libertarian stances. How far over to the right, I think, in the bottom right of the political compass in the purple box that you are. Now, I would suggest as Minicus, you're here. I saw Anthony, no, I'm sorry, not Anthony. What's his name? Who's the Jewish fellow that does it on... Shapiro.
Shapiro
is actually, I thought Shapiro was an authoritarian conservative, but he's actually nearly a minarchist down here. He's quite actually to the right on but he's definitely got some. This
is why I'm a bit sceptical about this political compass thing.
Well, let's see where it is, Tam. This is where we're going. Like they seem to get it, and I think we should be following Singapore as an economic model, and Switzerland more from the voting, etc. But that will be me. Right. I'll do mine later on. So here we go. 4.75 minus 4.6. You're bang right where you should be, brother. And we're seeing. Not on the authoritarian spectrum, so you are an anti-authoritarian. Well, you don't have to be anti-authoritarian if you're libertarian, but I think you're going to be bang where I said you're going to be. Yes, right where I said you were going to be. And you're telling me that this doesn't work. Oh, my goodness.
Well, it's a funny thing. I remember doing this thing, matrix thing, years ago, before I even heard of libertarianism. Mm-hmm. And I think I'd done it twice or three times, because every time I'd done it, I ended up with this. And I went, right, libertarian, that can't be right, because I didn't know what a libertarian was. It sounded too much like liberal to me. Mm-hmm. And I went, I'll need to do this again. I've took a wrong turn somewhere. And I was probably a bit more to the top and the right back then. Yeah, but you don't forget, you've not done it personally. You've done it on behalf of the party. Yeah. So, and I would have said you were, and I said that. So I'm actually 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm either here or here. But even with that sort of, you're actually right bang in the libertarian. See if I can bring this up. You can actually go in and go in more. Come on. Careful now.
Don't want to cut it off.
I see your scud.
Is that my scud?
No scuddiness, please.
That's me and the king. What I was going to say, so...
Where was that shot? What was that picture again?
You want to see him?
No, what was it? I go for it. Where are you?
That's me there. So that's Timothy Shadney,
oh, right, okay,
and Joe Egerton, who wrote it as well as starred in it. Brilliant.
I was going to say the Cambridge boat race has changed a lot since then.
Yes, indeed. I was having a laugh with them, but I didn't think they understood what I was saying. I was saying, can you imagine being in the pub tomorrow and saying, and what did you do yesterday? I was invading France behind Henry V and jumping. Kidding on him from his Wales, so it was quite interesting, but great. Davy Scud is the Scud. He's the baby gorillas are turning the Scud. So let's see where you are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just in the cusp. So 5 down, 5. So if you go in to put in political compass, so there's images here, so it tells you in this image, which is quite interesting. I think this image is a wee bit wrong. So you are 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Progressivism. Not that type of progressivism. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're down right bang in the libertarianism as the main box, and there's you for that anarcho-capitalism. So you are exactly probably in the minarchist. I think that's actually minarchist box, libertarianism, and you can then actually go and obviously through Wikipedia actually identify where you are. I'm more in the activism box, and obviously liberal. I would say liberalism. So neoliberalism is up the top here, and I'm obviously in the authority, the libertarian liberalism. But obviously, liberalism goes up and touches on both libertarianism
I
and all the
don't think
rest.
that box is big enough to contain you, Davey.
No, I don't think so either. Bursting out. But I knew that. But even just from you being a few boxes across, or the party being a few boxes across, it made me, and it just shows you even the guy in the Liberalist Party is a couple of boxes to the left again. But so far, all the parties have been predominantly in this bottom.
Where was the Scottish Family Party?
Slightly left of the centre, Libertarian centre left.
Right.
No, not
Okay.
right, left. And the UKIP was centre right. The Liberalists were 4 down, 1. The Liberal Party 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So they were here. That's where Carol Benjamin started, and Carol Benjamin's now, I think, in the same square as I am. So every one of these. See if you get rid of whether they're into unionism or nationalism, you could actually have a political party of probably the Scottish Libertarian Party, the Liberal Party, UKIP, the Family Party, and even All for Unity, if who are all predominantly in this area here. And this could be you could actually have it if unionism and nationalism wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
To a greater or lesser extent. Possibly not you, possibly not the Libertarian Party. I think you're in a unique position of your own, but certainly UKIP, the Scottish Family Party, the Liberal Party just now are certainly in that centrist Libertarian Liberal point of view. So although they are slightly more authoritarian being up here.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of paternalism there with those guys.
Small C, I would say small C conservatism for certain policies, Tom. So did you think I thought you're exactly where I thought you were going to be. What was your thoughts on it?
Well, I had no idea. I was hoping, obviously, I came a wee bit more to the Libertarian centre than I was when I first did this thing years ago. I mean, when I first took this test, I was quite anti the whole drugs thing. So I was still in favour of the war on drugs back then. So I've took up a libertarian position on that rather than what it used to be. So yeah. But there you go.
What's the long term? What's the future then for the Scottish Libertarian Party? What's the strategy in the future going forward?
Well, let me just check. No, there are no crystal ones, Davey. Sorry. Just ordinary.
What is it?
I don't know. At the moment, we're just regrouping, right? And we're going to look at putting up as many candidates as we possibly can, as many quality candidates as we possibly can in the council elections. We want to get our website overhauled and get that a wee bit more up to date and special looking. It's just a wee bit dated. And we've got our AGM coming up in November, I believe. So we'll have some policy, try and get a few more policies ironed out and a wee bit more substance to them, because these are things people come at you with, and you need to have a wee bit more detail in there. So that's where we're headed at the moment. We're also trying to expand our social media presence, increase our membership. So these are all things that we're going to have to look at between now and the beginning of next year, and certainly before May. Hopefully, if we can increase our membership substantially, get more activists working on the job, then we can increase our presence. We're also looking at working closely with other parties who are like-minded on certain issues. Restore would be one of those groups of people who we have common ground with. So,
what about the Freedom Alliance? Have you? I noticed
Freedom Alliance. We've had some talks with Freedom Alliance, but very tentative, very very initial. There's nothing, no in-depth stuff to it. Mm-hmm. There's certainly some common ground in free speech there and other things, but Freedom Alliance seems to be tends to be more of an umbrella group rather than a party with its own specific policies. That might change, but I don't have a problem with working with anybody who shares our goals on certain issues. If we can achieve something and certainly give the government a bloody nose in a few issues. I mean, one of the big things that's coming up is obviously this bill that they're going to introduce, the communications bill to curb the internet. That's important. That we really need to stop that dead in its tracks, and obviously keep trying to get this hate crime bill completely exterminated because it's insidious. But have we got any comments, incidentally?
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Right.
You there? Can you see it?
Yeah. I can't see any.
All right, hold on. I've actually not shared it with you, Tam. Hold on, just give me a second. Tam, big man Tam. Oh, hail Tam. Can you see them all right?
Yeah.
Read them out.
Okay, here we go. We'll get Rick Tang McCall. How you doing, Ricky? Interview us, Davey, the Canderside Militia. Shh, the first rule of Canderside Militia is you don't talk about the Canderside Militia. Well, that's you effed in there, Ricky. Can you come on and talk about the Canderside Militia? When he's having a rumble with the Ashgill Militia at any point soon. What else you got? Shocking those libertarians are not having rich capitalists giving you money. Something is up there. Right, okay, exactly. What else have we got? I don't know what. Can we get my eyes are working overtime here.
Let me read some of them out. So, Springtime of Nations has a good strategy for how to get a libertarian Scotland. So, isn't it? Springtime of Nations. Sorry, Springtime of Nations has a good strategy for how to get a libertarian Scotland.
As long as it's no springtime for Hitler in Germany.
The video is called Libertarian Leninism Part 2. What is to be done?
There's a combo.
Lenin. Can you?
Is the biggest enemy of libertarians other libertarians? Unfortunately, yeah, sometimes, yeah. Yes, and for Scottish libertarians also hate Flash Gordon. Yeah, I think that's a dig at me because I look a bit like Ming the Merciless. What else we got? Vermin Supreme. I've got nothing against Vermin Supreme. He's highly entertaining. Sounds like something you would order from a goth pub. A Vermin Supreme. I have a Vermin Supreme, please, and a pint of lager. John, both chaps look very feminine. Oh, do you think so? Thanks very much. Stunning and brave. Well, which one of us is stunning and which one of us is brave?
I think I was stunning and brave for becoming a woman. I think that was something.
Right, okay. SNP are the regime in charge of a country with a horrific human rights record. Well, I don't know about horrific, but it's certainly a terrible, appalling civil rights record, I would say, here in Scotland, and it's getting worse. Okay, moving on down. We've got the McCall John Parr double act going here. These are obviously big fans of yours, David.
No, my baby gorillas.
I think they're more orangutans than gorillas.
They're good guys.
Maybe they identify as gorillas.
Oh, they are. They haven't identified as a gorilla on the Guerilla TV channel.
Right. Can you still be a libertarian and still want to pump Priti Patel? Whoa. I'm not going to go there. That's my answer. She's her namesake for the waist up. I'll say that. But I think she's last time I seen her, she had a bit of a wide load. But Come on, there must be a serious question in here somewhere.
I don't know. I think my baby gorillas have all got a great sense of humour. I can see Davey in a beautiful wedding dress. Maybe Tam could marry her. or is that the patriarchal?
It's far too patriarchal for us. And also, I mean, I'm not getting married again. You know.
No.
I'm stuffed if I'm getting divorced for you and buying you a house.
Come on, Tam. Stop being such a socialist.
Right, keep going. Yeah, let's get down here. Let's see if there's any.
They're just enjoying our chat. That's what the guys are doing. Flash Gordon.
Guns are great. They save lives. Well, they do save lives many
in the right hands.
Of the time. They also take lives, unfortunately, depending on whose life they take. I'm glad I voted for the Scottish Libertarian Party, said Celtic Phoenix. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for voting for us, and I hope you vote for us again in the future. Get involved. What does Tam think about Scotland if we ever became independent, about having a written constitution?
That's something Dank actually brought up as well.
Right. I think a written constitution is important. If you're going to have government, then it has to be governed by something, and that should be a constitution. However, the problem is, what's that constitution going to look like? And currently, the stuff that the SNP are talking about putting into the constitution is pretty horrific. You know, it's not going to be a free market, free speech, free people, country under the SNP's constitution, because it's looking pretty grim. You know, if you put, let's just say something like they're talking about putting in there the right to food. That sounds pretty decent on the face of it, but if you've got the right to food, why would you buy it? You know, why? I should just be able to then walk into a restaurant and say, "Feed me, Seymour. Feed me, Seymour," and just get fed because I've got a right to it. You cannot have a right. You should not have a right to anything that somebody else has to be forced to provide for you. So it would really need to be very carefully written and very carefully devised. I think basically that Scotland should just adopt the Scottish Libertarian Party's constitution. There you go. Adopt the Scottish Libertarian Party's constitution. Celtic Phoenix commies are nae bonny. No, you're right there. John Parr, Deke Jackson's hilarious. He is indeed at times, yeah. What else have we got? Billy Clark, is there anything we could do about that echo, mate? It's making it a bit hard to catch everything Tam is saying. I can't hear an echo.
And I can't hear an echo this side as well, but there is an echo when we're actually casting, so I don't know whether it's something.
Does it come up on the recording?
If you're, yeah. So it's really bad because I've had some great chats with the leaders and the echo's really screwing up. So I don't know. I've got the perfect sound and I come across well on the podcast, but for some reason there's an echo with the guests, and I don't know if it's like on their side, if it's bad recording from their point of view. I don't think it'll be. I think it'll probably be some sort of, they've got something on that they need to switch off that actually causes an echo on it. So I don't know what it is though, Tam. I'm actually going to pay somebody, I think it's $250 to actually tell me how to actually remove the echo so that you can possibly hear it. I don't know, let's have a wee look. Oh no, I can't hear you, you're muted yourself. Still mute, mate. Nope, still mute. So back to the David Ballantyne show, and now the Tam Laird has muted himself. Keep talking, Tam, and I'll tell you when you've got it. You're not back yet. No, you're muted. You're mute. You still mute? No, it's still mute. That's my side. Hold on, mate. I'm trying to unmute you. That's it. No, it's still mute. I don't know what you've done there. Whatever you've done, undo it. What have you pressed? That's good. No, I don't know. You're still mute, buddy. Down the bottom right, see of the actual thing, the screen. Let me just move out. I'll stop this just now. See the bottom right down here? You might have muted it down the bottom right. Oh, aye. No, still there. So it's something on the computer then, because you muted. Aye, that's you muting and unmuting it. Still can't hear you. Don't know if it's coming up in the video. Let me just. No, it's not my side, buddy. You're unmuted on my side. No, I didn't change anything either. Hold on, mate, hold on. Let me just check something.
Yeah, and then the rest were regional can.
Clarified, and I think you should clarify. Site. No, you're even muted in the video, Tam. Hold on, mate, hold on. Let me just check something. No, you're muted on the video. Whatever you've done on your side, you've muted yourself. Oh, where are we? Tam Laird, I'm it. Tam. I think you should clarify. Tam. Are you there? Thomas?
Hello?
Hello, I can hear you.
Yeah, I left and came back in. It seemed to be the only option. I don't know what happened. There's no reason for it. I never touched anything.
Where's that? What is happening here? That's weird. Tammy, are you again? Where are you?
No, I'm here.
All right, okay, just give me a second. I don't know where this Zoom call
I can see you.
Yeah, I don't know why that's going like this. That's weird.
Can you see me?
No.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, buddy. That's enough just now. But oh, here we go. There's me. Where the hell's that? My
that's odd. Because I can see you. What about the people?
Oh, here we go.
Can they see?
Here we go. We're back. We're back, mate.
Right.
Fantastic. Let's go back to this then. We're doing well there. Quite enjoyable.
Listen, even GB News got its problems.
Oh, I know, that was great. It's good to know that if I'm fallible, they're definitely going to be fallible as well. It's quite incredible. They seem to have gone down. I haven't been really enjoying the content, but they seem to have gone down recently, Tom, in the things. And the viewing, somebody down the bottom. We're starting at the bottom just now, Tom, so we're going back up the way. If I join or sign up to the SLP but didn't want to run as a candidate in the elections, what can I do to help the party?
Well, I don't know. It depends on your particular skill set. You know, we could discuss that at a later date. But there's always, there's always stuff to be done, whether it's leafleting or kind of canvassing, or there's all sorts of stuff that has to be done. But it just depends on what your skill set is. Even
one thing that people don't understand is you have to have 10 signatories if you're standing like as an MP. I don't know if it's for an MSP as well, but
yeah, it doesn't have to. Not for an MSP, but for an MP, you have to get signatories. I'm not sure though. I think that's only if you're standing outside your own constituency area. I'm not sure. I need to double check.
Because I was standing, I was standing in my own, and I had to get 10 as well for the Brexit party. So no, it's not for that either. I had that one day to do it, which was really rushed. So you're better actually having like a bank of people who are prepared to sign in each constituency. One of the other things I was going to ask you, Tam, obviously, in the next election, I would hope that you were looking to get as many first past the post MSP standing as well, because I think that would make a hell of a difference. Because what happens with the regional list, although it gives the opportunity for everybody to vote for it, once you get the MSP candidates in the first past the post situations, then they're able to echo more votes onto the regional lists as well, because you've then covered, and you will then look like a formal political party by getting 63 or whatever it is, 70 odd seats in Scotland for the first past the post. And once you get to that stage, you get ramifications, because you're allowed to then have TV ads and things like that as well, Tam. So will you be looking to try and get 73 able-bodied libertarians, as long as you think correctly?
Well, there's a plan for that, we have certain people in the party who believe that that's a possibility, that we could do that.
Oh.
It's a hell of a lot of money.
Oh, it is, But surely you could get the people to pay it. Surely you could, rather than it would be easier.
Yeah, well, we can look at ways of doing it. Yeah, so it's not impossible. It's not impossible. So it's definitely so. But it's like a lot of these things. We just need to work out what's the best option to take. I mean, like as I said at the beginning, the political process in of itself is pretty corrupt. So
you've got the media against you. You've got you're getting restricted. People getting restricted on social media. So there's a lot of things that the political class are doing to prevent you or any of the other smaller political parties actually getting on. Also, I would suggest the postal voting might be an issue as well. I don't know what the Scottish Libertarian things is in voting as well.
Postal voting is a dodgy one, and I'm suspicious of the amount of votes that the SNP actually got at the last election, especially in certain constituencies where you go, that's a hell of a turnover to get. So postal voting was always open to shenanigans, and I wouldn't think there would be any less so under the SNP in Scotland. The Scottish Labour Party back in the day were renowned for getting up to all sorts of capers with postal voting. So considering that the SNP have basically just taken on the mantle of Scottish Labour, certainly as corrupt, certainly as deceitful, certainly as contemptuous of their own population as the Scottish Labour Party were. So, and maybe even more so. So, God, I wouldn't put it past them to be up to some sort of chicanery there.
Let's see what the rest of the guys are saying. So we're going up the way, Tam?
Yeah. Tam has many secrets. This is very true.
Libertarians are classical liberals. Classical liberals are libertarians cover. It's like saying authoritarian, from going from the Communist Party to some extreme, like Saudi Arabia, for example, on the extreme far right. That covers libertarianism, although Tam's party is called the Scottish Libertarian Party. It'd be like having a Scottish authoritarian party which covers all of authoritarianism. It's quite a large, what is the large swathe of the political spectrum of various types of libertarianism, isn't it, Tam?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, again, so I just get some caught my attention there. And it's what is Tam's thoughts on Walter Block's idea that the woman is just evicting the baby from the womb? I think that's a misquote for Walter Block. I think what Walter Block talks about the right to evict, in as much only in the context of an alternative to killing. So you don't have the right to kill. You don't have the right to kill the baby in your womb, but you do have the right to evict, right? If it's not welcome in there, you don't want it in there, you want it out of there, you can get it out of there, but you're not allowed to kill it. So you can evict. Certainly we've got the technology nowadays to be able to do that at a younger age, even if it's just to get the embryo out of there and develop the embryo in an incubator, through technology. That's something that can be looked at as an alternative to killing, is what Walter Block was talking about there. And I think it's a possibility. So right to evict, which I don't think a lot of feminists would back because they're socialist types. So I don't think they would back right to evict. But I would certainly go for it as an alternative, as a better alternative to killing. But that, again, that's not party policy. That's just my personal thoughts. Sorry, Davey, back to your question. What was it again? Before I got distracted.
I can't remember.
Okay.
What were we talking about? Libertarianism and how it's how you made it, how the Libertarian Party made it specific, but it does also include classical liberalism or libertarian liberals in the overall panoply. In fact, you actually encourage a wing of libertarian liberals within the Libertarian Party. Is that correct as well?
Well, I encourage a broad church. As long as people subscribe to the party policy, the party constitution. There's a wide church, because in a libertarian society, you would be able to run your community the way you saw fit. I don't have an issue really with, let's say, somebody who was a Scottish Libertarian Party MSP having his own way of doing things. But as long as you're absolutely clear that that's not the party policy, that's your own idea about things. As long as it doesn't violate the non-aggression principle, as long as you're sticking to the basics of party policy and the party constitution and the principles of the constitution, then there's wriggle room, between anarchists and between minarchists, between deontists and between consequentialists. There are all these differences, but these things are only an issue in the current political system. Once you have a libertarian society, once you get government back in the box, then a lot of these differences can disappear, because how you do things in your own personal bubble, in your own personal community, is entirely up to you. And through time, people will be able to see what the best way of doing things is, because the best ways will out without government interference.
Yeah.
So I encourage a broad church within the party, but there's a minimum that you would have to subscribe to.
And what do you think? I was thinking about doing this, Tam, and I wasn't quite sure if. Where is that? I was thinking about doing this, and I didn't know whether you like it or not. Let me just.
I'd like to. While you're doing that, I'd like to recommend a couple of books, if I may.
Of course.
One is essential, I think, for anybody wanting to get right into. You might have read this yourself. Murray Rothbard, What Has Government Done to Our Money?
Yeah.
Because you really need to get a grip on the money system and what government has done to screw it up. Because without a grip on that and without a knowledge of that, you're not going to, it's really important that you get a background in that to understand how much our money system has screwed things up.
Well, I think they deliberately do it. I think
absolutely they deliberately done it. The other one is a book called Excuse Me, Professor, which is it's available online, I think, for free from the Foundation for Economic Education online. But it's some great. There's all sorts of arguments in there, libertarian arguments, for when you come up against questions from progressives and leftists about monopolies and about how you would tackle these things. There's quite a comprehensive load of answers in there. And as I say, it's available online for free, but you can buy it
Do we need to get Mises into our universities?
Mises to some people hate that Mises to pieces, but you need to be over 50, I think, to get that reference. I think this definitely it should be, if when Mises and Hayek were taught with equal parity in economics classes in our universities, we would be out of this situation pretty quickly, I think. But it's not. There's very few Mises proponents or Hayekians in the university. It's all John Maynard Keynes, and even when you do get free market economists, they tend to be Friedmanites or monetarists. So we need a lot more of the Mises stuff.
Do we need what's the reform in the universities? Do we need to prevent the indulgence?
Get government out of there for a start, and bypass them. Why are we going to university anymore anyway? It's as far as I'm concerned,
I like the certificates.
Yeah, well, that's it. So you get these wee certificates that tell people that you paid a lot of money to be able to regurgitate information. People like I know Elon Musk has said he doesn't give a monkey's what certificates somebody's got for university, and I believe him when he says that. And there's a lot of other employers that I've met and business people that I've spoke to, and have said they don't think university education's worth the paper that it's written on. They're different if you're maybe doing STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. There's probably still a lot of validity in that. Out with that, I think you're wasting your time and your money. Well, as long as it's your money, you can waste it, but you're possibly getting yourself into a lot of student debt for very little return. Most of the information that you need is online for free. Most of the learning that's available is available online for free.
Yeah.
People used to go to university because universities was where the books were.
Yeah.
The monks were the only people who could read and write, and that's why universities were built close to monasteries. And you had to go to where the books were, because books were highly expensive, especially for working people.
Yeah.
Books are less expensive now, and they're certainly free a lot of the time on the internet. So there's no need to go to university anymore.
I think sometimes university can give you a structured learning as well, mind you. I think that can be beneficial as well. It depends
on it. By all means, go if you want to pay for it yourself. But I think that the issue is we are up against an educational industrial complex and an academic industrial complex that has a vested interest, that is an interest group that has a vested interest in keeping the price of its own product and the price of its own labour at a premium. And that needs to be bypassed to bring the costs down for people and to get academic excellence back on the agenda again, because the universities are just becoming a mockery. Even hallowed institutions, I say hallowed, but
like
hallowed institutions like Cambridge, Oxford are just becoming a laughing stock, really.
I mean, it is becoming embarrassing. I'm embarrassed as well. It just shows you how the mighty can fall as well. And I think it shows the gradual decline in the UK that this has been allowed to actually happen and actually been facilitated by the globalists. It's only going to get worse. 100%.
And this is the issue. I mean, it's getting time to wind up here for me, but
and me.
Just quickly, one of the issues I had with Scottish Family Party was it's not that I disagree with their analysis of the education system. What I disagree with is their I don't disagree with their diagnosis. I disagree with their cure. I think they think that if they can just get the right people into Parliament and we can just get the right policies, how long is that going to take? Think about it now. Imagine you've got a kid at school, just starting school now, Davey. How long is it going to take? Even with the best of intentions and the best of luck and the best of everything going your way, how long is it going to take before you can get Scottish Family Party members into the Scottish Parliament, into policy decision making placements, then get your policies through, get the opposition to vote for it, then get the teaching unions to implement it? How long is it? How old's your kid now?
About 60.
You know? Aye, forget it. Get your kids out. That's a very important thing, I think, that we haven't discussed this. If we can get our kids out of the clutches of the state, out of the state education system, while you're still allowed to do it, because they might criminalise it the way they have in Germany and Sweden, and get the kids out of the state education system, because there would be nothing would wake the state education system up more than if the teachers turned up on Monday morning and there was no kids to teach, because people just went, stuff you.
Celtic Phoenix has asked, you guys got a PayPal or something, or some way of donating? You can
go on to www.scottishlibertarians.com and click on donate. There's a big button up on there for donating.
And are you
gratefully received if you want to do that.
And are you going to come on the alternative question time with other smaller party political leaders as well, buddy?
I would be delighted to come on alternative question time if we can get a time and a place and a good venue. I think that would be important.
Well, we're going to do it online to start off with. So we're going to do it like this, and I am going to. I'm eventually going to actually get a green. I'm going to actually get a green screen. This is just off the Zoom, but I'm actually getting a green screen so I can project things on the back. I'll be better than this, but this is just a wee sort of experiment for me. I've actually got green and blue screens here, so it's only a matter of time until I actually get it done properly, and that's going to be great, because I'll be able to project things up on the back here, and we'll get it sorted out from that point of view. But we'll do an alternative question time. And we'll get 4 leaders, 45 minutes, and just exactly the same sort of format or an hour. And we'll do an alternative question time. Try and get left, right, and centre politicians. We might have to go one more, but try and get them to speak about certain things and do it online first of all, and then potentially we can get a venue after we get some donations and get a venue for the guys.
Yeah, okay, I'm all for it. I'm in.
Nah, good man. Tam, always a pleasure. I could talk to you for another 3 hours about policy. We'll obviously try and get back, and I'll try and sort out the echo, which is annoying people, because it annoys me as well. But I appreciate you doing all that, Tam. Great guy. Just stay there and I'll just switch off. My baby Gorilla's